planted.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to SpikeTalk episode 15. I'm your host, Baby Bay, along with my other host, Frost. And we have a special guest today, Ryan. What up, man? Welcome to the show. We were talking about getting you on for forever. Thank you for taking the time today, brother.
Yeah, no, good. It was nice. Everybody said like, "Oh, Frost was said nice things about you," as if that was like news in itself. That was the controversy of like Frost was like, "No, Ryan's actually doing a really good job." I also look very red. I noticed I look like typical Brit in summer gammon energy. So just need to be talking about Brexit a bit more, and I'll fit right in.
That's the glow.
My gosh,
Yeah.
my gosh.
Frost and controversy. Unlucky, bro.
I know it is surprising when you hear Frost mention your name, and it's for good reasons, apparently. Because apparently, there's always bad connotation when people think of Frost talking about somebody. And I don't know why. You've been glazing up a lot of people, including your biggest haters, bro. Your D1 haters, DRX, bro. You know, and including Stacks, who you actually were giving hella praise to. You were dying on your shield for that boy. And this guy came out and he's just calling you out for some shit, bro. That's crazy.
Yeah,
man.
calls me a racist on broadcast. It's kind of hilarious. Unlucky, bro.
Some crazy. The drama
you gonna do,
continues,
bro?
bro. The
Yeah,
drama
fam.
continues. I kind of just want to segue that, and then obviously we have an order of how we like to do things, but I'm just gonna start from the bottom. We're gonna mention this later, but it's a good thing to bring up jonahP talking smack for like probably the first time he's ever talked smacked, and he's getting basically his family threatened over doing it as well, which is crazy. But that just goes to show, you know what I mean? Like dude, man, the APAC fans and community are cutthroat, bro. They're maniacs, bro. Absolute maniacs, man.
Fact.
It's weird because I don't even
Crazy.
feel it was that inaccurate, really. Like for PRX now, they're always going to be a dark horse top contender for international events, so naturally that comes in with like choking connotations, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not as if he's completely off the mark or just being generalist about it. It's just that PRX have had some good opportunities and let them slide. Like for me at the start of this year, I'm like, if PRX don't win it this year, they're not going to win it in the future. But I'm very like, China's going to eventually catch up, and then it gets super competitive. And this PRX gravy train isn't going to last forever. And I think even with Jin coming back, it hasn't really looked like it's going to hit the same mark, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you could tell that they're trying to play the game more fundamentally correct, and I think in the process of doing that, it's gonna take more than a year to do that, especially with how they were playing the game previously. I say that because I went through the same experience, dude. I went through it, like, because I was also playing a completely crazy run it down style. But the biggest regret I had was going away from that, and I think that they're feeling that now with how they've been performing, and the pressure is on them. Whereas like before, they could just afford to just run it down, and if things weren't going their way, whatever, they like died on their sword. You know what I mean? They're gonna die and live by that play style. Now that they're going away from it, they're kind of losing that identity, and they're going through a little bit of an identity crisis, in my opinion. What do you think
Yeah.
about that, Frost? Or you, Ryan? Doesn't matter.
I actually had a bit of a question for both of you, actually, because I feel like, especially from like an analyst POV, you speak to like coaches on what, like game changers teams or like new coaches scene to the scene. Is it like one of the biggest mistakes that people can make to be like, we want to be a team like PRX? Either as players that Julius got, I want to be like Jing instead of a bit more of a structured play style, right? It just feels like we want to be more like them instead of boring Valorant. Like I keep hearing about G2 and the way that
Yeah,
they
they're
play. And it's
boring.
crazy that people are using that as a negative connotation when they play some of the best structured, some like decent comps and decent ideas. I'd rather have more G2 teams than PRX teams, to be honest. And that's me as a China view where everybody's just basically PRX anyway. Or trying to be.
Yeah.
I'll say this. It's easier to be G2 than it ever will be to be PRX. That's the funny thing. It's just you need to have like good coaches or a good coach that understands the fundamentals, understands the advanced fundamentals. You know, somebody that can structure practice, somebody that develops a system that people can buy into and all that stuff. And then you need players that are like, you know, high IQ players, but mechanically can, you know, hold their own. Because that's the knock you hear about G2. And I've said it. So, you know, is they don't have like a guy. They're a bunch of Jags, which for those of you that don't know, Jags are just another guy, right? When you compare Aspas to any of them, it's not even close, bro. But they're the sum of their parts, and that's what makes them special. They are, in my opinion, this year, I think they're the best team in Valorant. I said this yesterday to somebody. They're a better version of us, actually, on Talon, in my opinion. Like there are things that we do that's better that will probably show in this tournament because obviously this matters. But like overall, they're like a better version of us because their team play is immaculate. Individually, they're very strong. Valen as an IGL is very strong. Like if I were to grade like them comparable to us and like all the things we do well, I think they are just, even in the things that we do well, they're slightly better than us in those things. I think with the addition of Primi, now that obviously it's changed, but I meant like the iterations before Primi of talent, like at our peaks, I looked at like we were like kind of like G2, right? So all year I've been saying like we're more like G2 than anybody else, right? But I felt like their ceiling was higher. So I actually have had this conversation with people. The PRX thing is funny to me because that's what DRX did, and that's what a lot of people are doing, where they just go, "Oh, I just need young cracked aimers," and it's like, okay, cool. But I said this on the show, Ryan. But so I'll just repeat this because you probably didn't watch that episode where I'm basically like, but you know what the problem is? PRX also now has 3 years of experience. So yeah, you might find the young cracked aimers, but now you have to close the experience gap on PRX. So to me, it's a fool's errand to just try to like, oh, I just want to PRX this. It's like what they have is they're like one of one, right? Like, yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, the biggest misconception I think is that this is a team that doesn't nerd out over the small things. If they are just in server time all of the time, I think the best example that I've like heard or come up with is that they're almost like jazz musicians, that they can like improv, they can do some weird stuff.
Yeah.
But that's not because they just ignore like the scales and all of the music theory. They can do that because they know all of it and they know what boundaries can be pushed and what things need to be respected. Like this isn't a team that kind of goes, we're just going to do that because it's fun and like, okay, kind of mentality. They're just like, we know we can do this against this team. They're a lot smarter than I think they get credit for when it comes to just doing stuff in the server. I think a lot of people just see, oh, they're just playing like Phoenix here. And so they kind of just winging it as to the best of their ability.
I mean, I've experienced that firsthand, by the way. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody thought I was fucking brain dead aimer, like when I was doing the whole Schmeek shit. But people don't understand. Like, I think people get it now that like they see like my intelligence and game IQ. Well, everything I was doing was for a reason. I wasn't just running it fucking down like nilly willy, like, oh, I'm just gonna turn my brain off and just dash in. Like the timings that I took, I saw a window there. You know what I mean? Like I saw something that made me take that timing. Now, sometimes it didn't work in my favor because maybe the execution was lacking behind it. But that's how that playstyle came to be for me. And I imagine the process was similar for PRX. You're sitting in scrims, you're realizing every time I dash on these players, they're not even shooting me. Why would I not, do this shit in an actual official? And then when you test it out in official and it works, now you got something, and you build off of it. So I do think that, back to your question, I don't think that teams should just go into this and you have a whole new roster. Let's play like PRX. I think you need the individual pieces in order to do that. And I think that's how you should judge that. Like you need the correct pieces and the firepower, honestly, if I'm blunt about it. Because like you can't do this play style and not be on top of your mechanics. If you do, and this is why we've seen PRX struggle as well, because they're not hitting as high of highs, it's gonna crumble a little bit. Like you're heavily relying on winning a lot of gun duels when you're putting yourselves into these spots. That doesn't mean that you're not putting yourself into those spots with like, without cutting the corners, like you said, without doing your due diligence on the game and how you want to default with that crazy play style. But you can definitely tell that they themselves realize that they couldn't do it. They couldn't win a tournament, right? A champions tournament by playing this play style. So now they're trying to do something new, and they're looking rough because of that, And that's the problem without learning the fundamentals. So even if you do want to play a PRX style, I think you still should learn that the rest of the shit so you have something to fall back on, in my opinion. Like
Yeah.
that's what I would have wished I could have done sooner. Like I wish I could have had like Frost as my coach who identified like, yo, this fucking Schmeek shit works like crazy, but you also need to be able to like, play the game normal if you get shut down. That's what we needed. That's what we lacked. And that and IGL, of course. but, but yeah.
Yeah. I agree with Ryan that I think the Jazz analogy makes sense. I think it's just, to me, what makes them special is that they do have multiple win conditions, because at any point, any of them can like just take control of a game or a series. And I think they play to their win conditions well. You can see that when they play against us too. Admittedly, when we played them in the season, we weren't really like that game wasn't really like, we didn't, look at the comps we were running, right? But they just know, okay, this team we can play like X, that team we can play like Y, that team we can play like Z. They're very sophisticated in the understanding of their win conditions against whatever opponents they have. Like the truth is, sure, they lost to DRX. They actually should have 3-0'd them, right? It was Mako having a ace to close out bind on going through 2 smokes, by the way, to do it, right? In order for them to basically end, and then obviously DRX continues to pull it out, props to them obviously for the reverse sweep. But like I'm saying, like one round could have completely changed the whole complexion of this, and they win 3-0, and the narrative isn't what it is. But I will agree with you, Baby Bay, that I also think they're lacking for a consistent IGL. Because the truth is, none of those players seem to want it or like have taken it, and they have like, it looks like they have like Ilya sometimes, in the mid round, or they have Forsaken. You can kind of tell, like almost the way that they play, you can tell who's the one making the call, and that's probably the most info I'll give based on the reads I have of them. And I think that they are certainly hurting from that, because I think in a series like the DRX one, you need a very competent, calm IGL to be able to bring it back, and then sort of like, next map reset, here's what we're going to do, blah, 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 blah. It looks like the group, they're more a hive mind, I would say. And in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think that too many teams, Navi's another example of this, too many teams I think have acclimated to the idea of like, yo, we can all IGL. I actually fundamentally think it's better to neutralize one player on your team that is very smart and can handle it, and let them IGL, and everyone else focus on just doing your fucking job. This 5 IGL bullshit to me is insane.
So hard.
Also,
Agreed,
I will point out, if anyone has ever listened to Boaster or the Fnatic Com videos, you'll understand exactly what the fuck I mean. Because having one guy, since we're on the music theme, having one conductor is, I think, the way to manage all the variables in this game. Just sacrifice one fucking guy. Let him do it. Everybody else just do your shit.
I actually had something similar, because I got like a bit more experience like coaching, and one of the things because our IGL was quite new to it, one of the things that we were running into is that he felt a bit out of his depth mid rounding, because he was still adjusting to it, and so he was really keen on having one of the other players like mid round a little bit more. And I was like, I don't mind him helping, but I don't want you to pawn off a big chunk of what your job as an IGL is onto somebody else because you feel uncomfortable. It's like, this is where you gain comfort. We're just playing for scrims. You don't need to worry about officials and stuff for the time being. And it's sort of the same thing to an extent. Like if I think of Fnatic, I like, it's not that Durka or Leo wouldn't have input, but I think it's like they know that they need to be keeping the vibes up, right? They need to be just having inputs. They can talk about what's going wrong with the default from their POV, but they don't need to worry about making the call. Just give all of that information to Boaster, or mini on my putty and now make the adjustment, right? It's why I think Sentinels did so well with having somebody like Zellsis as the vibes merchant, because there's a lot of players that go, oh, I can secondary IGL, oh, I can be the vibes merchant on this team. But they can't. They're just like either saying it to try and get in on the team to be like, I've got experience IGLing, so I could just like dip in and do this. And then it's literally just like, maybe we should just, put the Cypher on A this round. It's not quite the same. It just feels that that's players trying to put on extra hats to say, oh yeah, I can do this, I can do that. And they don't really get, if you're a vibes merchant, how you need to be that positive influence every single round, every single day. You don't get to have a round where you tilt. If you're an IGL, you can be in positions where you're like, I'm not really sure, guys. Like, if anybody has any calls, make that decision, but you always have to be the leader.
Yeah.
Speaking of Fnatic, I think that's one thing that they might have got wrong, because I think Boaster's saying like he doesn't want to babysit the team anymore, like in vlogs and stuff, that he wants to focus on himself and his own performance. But like that's kind of part of the job as the IGL, but also that's what was successful for Fnatic for so long, is Boaster kind of keeping everybody in check. They're all young players, they all lack discipline like Alpha and stuff. They look better when Boaster is on their asses about getting stuff done. So if you could do that and still have good performances, that's where you get Fnatic from last year back again.
But here's the problem with that. Then when Boaster doesn't look good, or the team doesn't look good, he's the first to be blamed.
Yeah.
This is also strained, let's just say, my relationship with him, because I have mentioned this, that it's basically like, he's basically first to be replaced. Right. And that's the unfortunate byproduct of yes, it is the byproduct of the job. And yes, in my opinion, it's also the responsibility of the coach to also defend, his IGO, because certainly the coach should be understanding of what you just mentioned. But the problem is, most of the GMs in this league, I'll just be very honest, most of the GMs in all of Valorant have no idea about Valorant. So what they'll end up doing is either listening too much to Reddit or insert casters and analysts' opinions, which has been the new shit in Valorant. In CSGO, that wasn't this big an issue, baby bay. But I'm telling you, these mother effers listen to that, and that shit to me is wild.
Mainly because to me, bro. I actually know my shit,
Right. It's smart that, like, okay, analysts and casters and like all these people, they study. They absolutely do their jobs. But the one thing that they'll never understand is the nuance, is why are we doing this? It could be something as simple as like, my Sentinel is really good at one-on-ones. I want to adopt this 4-1 style to make noise to give him the opening pick. Then when he dies a lot, a la Boostio last year on EG, or he takes first contact a lot, everyone, right, APOP this year and it doesn't work, everybody's like, this guy fucking sucks. It's like, maybe this is just a byproduct of the goddamn system, right?
Literally.
Right? But you wouldn't understand that nuance because you're not fucking in the room. So I totally understand why sometimes casters and analysts get it wrong. I'm not judging them from getting it wrong. I'm just saying, to me, it's insane that some of the GMs that I know actually listen to this as if it's gospel and will bring that up to the guys afterwards. Like, hey, this guy said this. I'm just like, cool, man.
Yeah.
So I think that's the fundamental problem with why Boaster feels that way, because he realizes that he's going to be the first one cut, especially now, because they haven't really got over that hump. The next move was either like him or Leo, because you're not going to cut Durka, you're not going to cut Alpha, straight up, you're not, right? You're not going to cut Chronicle. So it's either one of those two that have to change. And I think this is the unfortunate byproduct of sort of like the way things are, is that DRX removed Stacks, who I think was, in my opinion, the best IGL in Pacific. And I know you mentioned earlier all the beef and all the drama between me and Koreans and all this bullshit. It is what it is. But the truth is, this is what I thought. It would be the equivalent of like, me and Cruz, right? Like, sure, on one end, I certainly think that Governor and Band could IGL also. But in reality, Cruz is my IGL. Cruz is the one that's personally sacrificing for everybody else. So me not acknowledging this, I think would just be like a fool's errand. And I think this is sort of like, I think the issue in general in Valorant, FNS and NRG, obviously you guys know what happened last year, this year, and all that stuff. We don't appreciate that element of the game. We don't put enough importance on that element of the game. It's why like people like me and you, Baby Bay, have talked about Valen so much, even though Valen doesn't pay us. I don't even talk to Valen anymore. I don't even talk to him. Last time I talked to him was like 3 years ago. But we still give him a love and appreciation here because we understand sort of what they're doing and how good he is and what's going on, and all that stuff. And I think that's the unfortunate element for Boaster, is that he doesn't get that credit from people that he should. And even people like me who have brought up, the first one to get replaced is going to be Boaster. When I bring that up, it's not out of disrespect, which I think people and players just have a hard time understanding. It's just, I've been in this fucking industry long enough. I know exactly what the fuck is going to happen if you don't win. And I know how these like things matriculate, right? So it's not like personal. I have a great appreciation for what he is as an IGL and a player. I understand what his strength is.
You can't measure it. At least not for somebody that doesn't view the game. It's the equivalent of him just being like, I got mine, right? Like that's kind of what it feels like.
Right.
It's just he has to put in more effort for that.
Yes.
When his efforts, not to say like, I think there is a middle ground where he can still mechanically fight, but I do think that, whether it's just the absolute just dogging of finesse on broadcast, for example, or whether it's Munchkin talking about fragging IGLs being needed after like Gen G1, 2, like now it feels like the community almost has more excuse to go in on IGLs, which I think is fine. If a player doesn't individually show up, it needs crediting. Like how long for EDG deserve to have been dropped at a certain point, because it's not that he's indisposable, like he definitely is, but it's just that there's so much talent in China, even before we've scratched the surface, even with players in contract jails that we never got to see play in tier 1 this year when they probably deserve to. Like there is just so many fucking people in that region that there are so many people that can go into that spot, or you could just give it to players like Nobody and they can pick up the role and at least do their best and find their thing. China this year when it comes to decisions like that have been wild. And it's that dial to 11 that players go, if I'm not dropping 30, even as like a silver on a map, I risk losing my job, which is crazy to me. But it's not at all surprising that people are wired to think that way.
I will say this though, that Munchkin shit was so fucking cap, bro. First off, I mentioned earlier, Ban can do it. Ban on Sentinel absolutely can IGL, I guarantee you. It will be a little bit selfish, but he can. Let me explain. I'm willing to bet a testicle on the fact, right? That Ban could keep the exact same like ACS and all his performance on Sentinel and still IGL. This is not a shot to Cruz, but Cruz will understand what I mean. Why? Because he could just go, Cruz, I need you to mid-round, because he used to IGL. You're with the pack more, just mid-round. And then his numbers will stay the same. Because Ban can, as a Sentinel, go, I think they're going to come here. If I structure everything this way, it'll be best. Yo, we're going to run this play. So that he's in the position to either absorb pressure or take advantage of a matchup, a gap, or something, and he doesn't have to communicate that to his players. Whereas the Sentinel today has to basically go, yo, this and this and this is what I'm seeing, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to take this timing, or I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. He has to update, the connecting comm he has to update the IGL on a pattern he saw or things that are happening, or I'm going to take this gamble, you need to be ready to do X. If this happens, so let's just say attack, right? You're in a 4-1, he goes and dies, they need to hit as soon as possible. Why? Because they know there's either 1 or 2 there, depending on the comm that comes from like Ban. And then you're never going to get better odds because it'll be a 4-on-3 the other way, or even a 4-on-4. And if you give that team time to reconfigure, you might just get screwed, right? Because the rotations might come too fast. They might be able to flood way faster on the retake than you're going to be ready for, right? So you need to take that timing. But that's a communication thing. So Munchkin saying that is hilarious because he puts himself in the spots where he knows he's needed. He knows exactly what Texture's doing. He knows exactly what everyone else is doing. And he's like, oh, I'm able to frag. Yeah, you're playing Sentinel, bro. Like, try doing that. Like, try IGL'ing when you have no more util because all your util was for this guy. And then basically you didn't really get that much out of that round. And then let's see if you're fragging now because you're going to have to micro a lot of other people. And I think that to me was a misnomer because I think either it wasn't translated in the way that I understand it or that I can understand it well, or he actually believes that like, oh yeah, like it's easy to just frag an IGL or like anybody can do this. And it's like, bro, the only reason you're like, I mean, I'm not even gonna get into the specifics because we might end up running into Gen G at some point in this tournament. I'm just gonna say, yeah, bro, Ban could do it too, but he's not. And he's not because I won't let him, because it's more efficient for it to be somewhere else. But let's not pretend like a Sentinel, like Nats, for instance, who has done it, can't just be like, hey, you know what I'm going to do? Here's what we're going to call. So I'm going to be here. If they come here, I know what to do. If they don't, I know what to do. Like, come on, bro. That
like
to me was like so ridiculous, bro. Yes. Yeah. It's easy to do that if you have someone else mid-rounding or you have a team that can openly communicate very well. Very different. I don't know if this is the truth. I don't. I'm willing to put money. I'm willing to wager. I do not speak Korean, but I'm willing to wager. If Gen G have the balls to actually put a real comms video, I guarantee you more people are talking on Gen G and giving info than what we have heard out of Fnatic. Because you want to know the tales of two different things? Boaster was microing every single player on that team. No disrespect to that team. I am doubting. I'm putting a hard fucking cap on the fact that Munchkin is microing every single player on Gen G as a Sentinel.
It's hard to do.
If he does that and he's putting everyone down, again, I do not yet understand Korean.
Yeah.
However, I am venturing to guess that this is not what's happening. But if he does that and he's producing at the level he's producing on a Sentinel spot, then in my opinion, he's not only the best Sentinel in the world and took that from Nats, he might be the most valuable player in Valorant.
Yeah.
That could be true. It could be true. I just doubt it based on what I'm seeing on tape, because communication takes time. Like, it takes time for us to process these words that we're speaking. Unless you're not listening and just waiting for your turn to speak. But when you play Valorant, you can't really do that. So there's no way Gen G's as fast and as sharp if he's microing everything.
Especially
I don't believe that's true. Yes.
Like, that's something you might expect out of PRX after playing together for 3 years. But
fair.
Like, I mean, that's the most impressive thing about that Gen G team is just how it, like, it's kind of, if you see them like winning champs or whatever, like, it's that kind of team with that structure that you want to be seeing at the top, like your Fanatics and stuff. You don't want to feel like it's a flavor of the month team. And I think at least for champs, I'm excited going into this event because I do think that you have a lot of really interesting styles, even from like the Chinese teams, but like Heretics is like utility-centric approach, the way that they come up with lineups and have it all come together, versus teams that tend to like mid-round and adjust a bit more, or kind of like you with Talon Frost, that you're like looking at your opponent, making the right kind of adjustments, comps, Foot that are not afraid to play some really wild stuff to try and catch you by surprise. Like, stylistically, it's probably the best event that we've, like, major event that we've had, because any team with various styles can actually have a good shot at winning it, whether they were good at the start of the year, like Sentinels, or teams that are starting to get good now, or have made roster changes that might compete in the same level. Like, Group B in itself is crazy with the kind of teams that you have in there, when you've got like FPX trying to just reinvent a meta, going way too far in one direction and then having to claw it back. That group alone is going to be a spectacle, never mind everything else.
Dude, I can't wait to watch that.
It's the best group in Valorant history.
I cannot wait to watch that.
There's never been a group that good ever. And I've been in some shitty groups. Like, I had Gambit in my group when they were 1 and we were the 2 seed, and and then I had to play Ascend right after. Trust me, I know what it's like to get group fucked. There is nothing like what's happening in Group B. I've never seen that at all in my life. That's wild.
We'll talk about that more in depth too in a little bit. We just want to run through the yapping points first, but yeah, dude, yeah, this year has been closer than ever for all the regions as well. I believe, like, I think China stepped it up big time too.
Yeah,
EDG had an abysmal performance. I think that like FPX's playstyle in Shanghai, I was like, wow, bro,
Right.
it made me a fan of them. It genuinely made me.
It's so frustrating though. Like I feel like watching them at Shanghai, you're like, you're heading in the right direction. All you need to do is tidy up that play a bit more, especially on defense. Just tighten it. They've gone, no, we need to be more fucking off script, off the goop. That they got even clumsier and even less tight. It was like, you know, like the whole like yes, 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 no kind of subreddits and stuff like that. It was that, and at least FPX in playoffs like bounced back a little bit. But man, like their Ascent comp, like the Omen Astra stuff they were doing, it just wasn't it for the longest time. I feel like they're sitting on strats, to be honest. I feel like there's comps that they didn't necessarily want to show, but there is one comp where I think it's like Yoru, Fade, Viper, Cypher, Omen that they're starting to use on like Abyss and stuff. I feel like they're going to try and bring that to other maps, and it's going to be kind of like they did at Shanghai with their double, triple controller. There's this almost like omnipresent style. It's just cookie cutter, copy and paste onto all of the different maps, and kind of hoping for the best. So I don't really know what to expect from FPX. Really, I hope that they can like actually fight as well as they did at Shanghai. But honestly, they fell off a little bit like during stage 2 and narrowly brought it all together in playoffs, I think.
I mean, I had conversations with Lysor telling him to, you know, like stick to what he's doing because they have a unique play style, but maybe they took a little too far, bro. Maybe you're right, bro.
You say that like Lysor is the best player on FPX as well, Frost? Because I've been glazing him so hard.
He's such a nice kid too.
I was on K-Ron early. I won't get the credit for it, obviously, because you know, but yeah,
it's just crazy.
You can tell on tape.
He was like Madrid, like because I think it was literally like he was. Lysor was so bad at Madrid that they brought in, I think, Zishuan as like a sub to potentially replace him. And Lysor just stepped the fuck up. It was crazy how like good he was from that stage on. I think it was more moving him away from the Viper and the Killjoy more onto stuff like Omen, where he's a lot more impactful. Probably one of the best controllers, Omen players in the world when it comes to like individual impact, which is crazy when almost like the Shepherd's Crook was about to pull him off stage after Madrid. He was that bad at that event that having him be one of, if not the best player on FBX behind the likes of Life and stuff, it feels crazy to say that. I feel like I'm just coping hard for FBX in China, but genuinely, like Lysor has been the difference maker for this team to actually be competitive.
For sure. It's Pancada. If you look at the early part of that year, what was it, 2022? Yeah. If you look at the early part of that year, Pancada was not good. By the end of that year, I was saying, I mean, earlier than that, for sure. Like early summer, he was the best player on that team. And I still think he's the best player on that LoL championship team. I don't think they win without Pancada. Pancada was by far the best controller player in that year, but he did not start as the best controller player of that year. Right? Like, you know, I still think Avova was by far the most impactful smokes player at around that time. And when obviously Pancada was struggling, Pancada also had these, they're just so impactful. Like K-Ron's, everyone thinks about his ability to frag. And I guess Lysor's similar, but it's not their ability to frag. It's the timely kill. It's the timely kills. It's the small positional things. It's the, like, those are the things that I see on tape more than like, I look at the box score and see like ACS or like kills. It's like, when you look at the important rounds and like the swing rounds, like the 2-for-1s, or you look at like first gun rounds and all, like you look at those things and you look how like sometimes they get an easy 1 kill, which people won't notice. But if you're getting a free kill on an important round, that means you are either throwing the enemy team so far off that they're just like wait, what the fuck is he even doing there? Or like, huh? Or you just have such a mastery of like the game, like you're reading the game at such a level that you're getting your first kill of the round as a positioning kill.
Hmm.
That's normally like what happens when you're in like a 2v2, because you have to like cut corners on attack sometimes based on time. Sometimes they're getting it early in the round, like early on Sunset when he started to make the changes, when he was playing on the boxes, top boxes on A, and people were just like, he'd get a free CT kill, or sometimes he'd be like anti-raise on lane, and he'd be on that box, sees over smoke, oh, he just kills one randomly coming up lane. And it's like those are like, huh. And then like you're supposed to scout against this. So then it's like he doesn't do it again, but then he does it like on a 2-for-1 round, late until the half on defense. And then he like catches the team sleeping because they probably checked that spot for 6 rounds, because the scouting report in the game was like, hey, whenever we go lane, someone needs to pre-aim this. But they never see him. So then it matters, time is low. All of a sudden, you've always checked this. You don't check it the one time, motherfucker's there.
Yeah. And that's always stuff actually from like when you're watching it. I don't know if you're the same, Baby Babe, with doing more casting, but one thing that like I don't think you need to be a high rank in the game to be like a good analyst or like on a broadcast for sure. But I think you need to play the game a lot. Because I think if you watch the game too much, your perception of how the game plays just changes. Because you stop imagining what it's like to be in a player's position. You almost assume that they have all of the information they need. So when you see these positions where Noman's on top of a box and he gets an easy kill, you don't think much of it. You think the attacking team like, oh, they should have cleared that. Like that's just dumb from them. But you don't realize that, kind of like you said, Frost, that the last 6 rounds, they were checking it. It's just that this round, they were a player up. They like 30 seconds left, so they're rushing a little bit more. That's the one time that they get caught. And there's a lot of like small things like that once you start like watching a game from a one team perspective instead of seeing both, and you don't have complete information, you have to piece it together a bit by bit, whether it's in officials because you've anti-stratted them, or in scrims where you don't really care too much. You just want to try and make sure that you're not making the same mistakes over and over. That you kind of look at those situations and go, that seems really simple and straightforward, or a big mistake by this team. But honestly, it was actually well played by the other, even if it was just them being on a weird off angle. It's just so hard
Yeah.
to keep on top of that stuff when it's already super chaotic.
So I think that's like my biggest strength, is the fact that like I'm able to depict that to all the viewers out there. That's what I try to do in terms of my casting or being an analyst. I'm trying to educate everybody of the intricacies of the actual game, because it's also shit that they might be adjusting on the fly too. And that's something you got to take into account. There's so many factors that play into the rounds. Like you mentioned, you could be clearing out the same angle every single time, but that one time that you didn't check it because, oh my God, the clock ran down to like 20 seconds or something, or 10 seconds while you're going into the site. These are all corners that like sometimes you just got to gamble the guy's not there. And sometimes you guess wrong. You know what I mean? It could have been set up previously because of conditioning, like Frost is saying, you know what I mean? And there's so many things that play a factor into that. And I try to point these things out to all the viewers out there, because I mean, I want everyone to get better, bro. That's the whole point of me doing this shit. You know what I mean? Like honestly. Otherwise, I would have just kept playing tier 2 if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But
And the last bit on Ryan is, I think you bring up obviously a good point. Even I get caught with that now, because I don't play. Okay, I'm gonna repeat this story only because Ryan, I don't think you heard it, but me and Nitro had a situation like this, and he was like, "All right, heck, you obviously know the fundamentals, the advanced fundamentals, but you got to trust me. You just got to trust me. I can hit this and get out safely. Trust me." I'm like, dude, but that's like too big a risk. Not for me. And like, even in Valorant, I had that problem. I had the same problem with Simple. I've had problems with Electronic and CS with this too, because I don't play at their level, and I'm not them. So I'm like a huge X's and O's guy. I play the percentages. I'm a huge analytics guy. So like the way my brain works is just different. Like I will always, even in rank, I make the safe play almost all the time, right? Like because I feel like I'm smarter than them. So like, I will just be in a better spot anyway. Now I just have to hit, a shot, right? But it's going to be a high percentage shot because I know where to be, where to look, blah, 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 right? But players are different, and some players that have like exceptional skill, you obviously have to coach them differently, and that's one part of the job there that even I still don't understand very well, because I think people's risk assessment is so fucked up in this game. But it's because of exactly what you just mentioned, because I'm not good enough to do the things that, like, I'm experienced enough, I could coach aspas, right? For sure. But on a practical level, I will never know what it's like to be aspas. So I will never understand the things that he feels he can get away with, because to me, it looks like it's stupid. Like, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't be here. Way too much risk. But that guy could change the math, and that's the shit that is the fucking hardest to basically coach. And there are times, especially this year, where I still have gotten that wrong with Governor, because it's like, it goes back to the conversation that we had previously about like analysts and stuff don't know the nuance. It's not that you guys aren't smart enough. It's just that we're not that.
Not in the weeds. You're not like in the trenches.
We
He
can't.
didn't live it. He didn't live
Right,
it.
we can't do that, so we don't even know that's a real option. It just looks dangerous as fuck, and it looks like it is not worth it, because we've seen this round simulated, thousands of times when watching it, and we see most of the time these players get punished, but those players are not that player. And how the fuck do we gauge that player from that player? And it's like an unperfect or like an imperfect science.
Yeah, literally.
So much of it comes with trust and just understanding that in most cases, this guy is different. You got to give him the room. I'm dealing with this with Premi at the moment, right? And it's like, so the thing you're speaking on is like, massive case study, because that's so much of what separates like Gen G from like Talon, let's say, right? It's really not that much, but it is that much if you understand that.
Yeah, it's
right.
Very, to bring it back to like China, especially because I was talking about this and like a penny dropped. Like from player and coach experience here, when you have those rounds where you go, okay, we won that round, but we shouldn't have. Like, we played the situation so badly, like we got lucky in cases and we did well to adjust, but these are like cardinal sins that we're making, versus we lost this round, we lost this map, but genuinely, like, we played as we should have done. We just got a bit unlucky, or they prepped against us really well, or it just came down to minor things. China don't have that level of, I don't want to sound like almost dismissive or condescending, but it's almost like they haven't quite grasped that side of it. Whereas I feel if they have a round that they should have lost, that they lose because they got something fundamentally wrong, they go, I'm going to learn how to make this round work by just being able to out-aim people. And that's what's made China so fun, but frustrating to watch, is you go, okay, EDG have put themselves in a bad position here. They shouldn't win the round at all. Like, they're 3v5, they're not in the right spots, but somehow they just make it work. Just off like sheer like magic, bullshittery, whatever you want to call it. And you have teams that should win around because they're set up absolutely fall apart, and they don't look at that and go, oh, we're positioned wrong here, we're not using our agents very well, we're not timing our utility very well. They go, the only way for us to improve in those situations is to just get better aiming and out aim them and do all of that stuff. So you just get these rounds where the mechanics are unbelievable, but you're just seeing some of the biggest red flags you've ever seen in a tier 1 game happen in front of you. And I don't know if and when that's going to change. I don't think it will. I don't think China's suddenly going to go, oh, we're just going to start playing like a European team. There's some like trace that try, but if anything, it's kind of like you were saying, Froster, if you put teams and players like that in a box, they just stop shining. And I don't know if that's actually, to go back to what we were saying about G2, I don't know if that's Icy's problem. That almost like there isn't that level of shock factor or surprise. He plays it so well and so structured that it almost takes a bit of the shine off of what a duelist can bring. And I think Zekken can be a little bit guilty of that too, where he doesn't have those moments where he just takes a risk and gambles, unless they're like a player down and that he's playing like effective value and
Mhm.
that kind of stuff, right? Like that's something you're never going to get from Paper X. Like they don't need to think about, they don't need to restrict themselves. Whereas I think a lot of teams play in such a scheduled and structured way that they don't have individual brilliance from players because they're, oh, we're in a player advantage. I don't need to push this. I don't need to fight that. But in some instances, kind of like Baby Bear was saying, you need to speak at them. You need to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like mental guerrilla warfare that I'm going to peek you and beat you because I can. And you have to worry about that now that you're not able to set up for a retake and stuff. Like that side of the game's got really interesting, but there's no way to measure or gauge that or even talk about it on a broadcast because it's just not the focus. And like, what can you do other than like leaking comms and stuff? It's hard to show.
Yeah, I think the only player that it is evident that is miles ahead of a lot of others in his role is aspas. He's the only one that we can like confidently say right now does all these things that we're talking about. He knows when to go hella over aggressive, and then he also knows when to hone it back. And I think every other duelist in the league right now is still trying to find that perfect mix. But there's a reason why aspas he can join any single team right now and make them better, no matter
Yep.
what. And it's because of that reason. He just I don't know if it's game IQ. I don't even know if it could just be instincts, bro. For me, it was just instincts. Like I just knew, especially in that old meta when you could dash right away. I just knew that there was windows of opportunities that I could take against certain players to either take the space or even punish them. And that's just that wasn't like some fucking prep work I did. It was just like a feeling that I had deep down. I was just like I knew I was gonna do it. Like that was just pure instinct sometimes. So it's just yeah, like how do you track instinct, in a player? But when you look at Osboss play the game, you kind of see his instincts come out, and it's almost like it's a guessing game, really. Is almost what it is. But he just guesses right so many times. You know what I mean? It's like it is still a gamble at the end of the day when you go for some of these plays. But more times than not, maybe it's just the comfortability aspect of the certain angles, like Frost is talking about, where he just in his own brain is like, nah, I'm confident in this angle, bro. I like back of icebox, back A. He's gonna kill anybody that runs through screens, bro. He made that like that's the Osboss angle now, bro. Nobody was holding from that fucking spot. Like I swear to God, everyone was like, no, I'm too scared. All of a sudden, this whole new meta shifts where they watch this player able to hold back sight, and now other players now have the confidence to hold the same angle as him because they realize, oh, this is actually a really strong angle to hold. You know what I mean? So it's kind of just it's like that. It's the only way I can explain it. And I try to say it on broadcast sometimes too, like especially when it comes to Icebox. I'm like, watch, like Osboss, he loves this backside angle. He made it popular, and watch, he's gonna hold it. He's gonna get two here, even though they're up 4v5 or 5v3. Sometimes he'll still hold it because why not? You know what I mean? Like he knows he's gonna hit the shot and kill you. Um, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's a
it's
poison pill though because
tough.
you get into a lot of arguments with players
Mm.
because it happened with me in simple, happened with me in electronic. It's for sure happened with me in Asana. And it's always going to continue. It's happened. It's happening now with me in Primi, where like they get away with so much shit in ranked and all these other game
Yeah.
modes, and they
Or in
screen these
scrims
teams in
too. It
practice,
can happen in
and they're
scrims
Scrims
as
like,
well.
"Nah,
especially,
this
yeah, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
always doing this." And then I'm like, "Yeah, bitch." But the moment you start playing real players, smart players, you're gonna get punished. Then you fucking lose a tournament or two, or for us, like you lose in playoffs, the fucking DRX that you literally have in the bag, right? You
Yeah.
throw, and then you go, "Oh, remember all those things I told you? You remember all those times I said we shouldn't be doing this, we shouldn't be doing that?" Unlucky, and it costs you. And then it's like, but those are real pivotal moments because the way you handle that sort of adversity could make or break your like team. But
Yeah.
that's the
Or
thing
or
that
the
like
player's
players,
confidence or yeah, exactly.
yeah, like that's the thing that players will never understand. It's like, sometimes as coaches, you try to like preemptively protect them from the downfall of that ideology and attitude. Or Primi could just get two 4Ks on pistol rounds and basically just single handedly save Lotus like he did on Team Secret.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
And
it's like,
he's like, I told you so. And it's like, try that
right.
again. Try that
Yes, and
tomorrow.
that's the
Yeah.
but that's the unfortunate game that you play when you're like live by the sword, die by the sword,
Yeah.
and some people just change the math, and it's hard when you're not,
So
that guy.
so I said this before on our podcast when we were talking about Premier and just in general about players that are like this, right? I think like my biggest solution to this is, and this is something that I realized that I wish I would have realized way sooner, is that I was one of those guys that was just taking every timing that I knew I had in practice and ranked, and I just kept doing it over and over and over, even when I knew it worked. I think the biggest thing you can do is when you know something works, fucking hold it. Like, you know it works already. Just don't
Yeah.
forget the confidence level that you have in that spot. If you
Yeah.
need a refresher, sometimes you could sneak it in another scrim. Sure, whatever. I get it. Because obviously, if you're not putting yourself in spots enough in scrims, you won't have the confidence the same in the match. But to my point, what I'm getting at is there's some plays that are just fucking match plays, and that's where the trust factor comes in. So you got to be able to trust your players as a coach to take that timing in a match because it might fucking turn the tide, right? That one solo fucking swing in a 2v3, or like even if you're up 5v5 in a post plant, what if that guy gets two, and wins the round in that moment in a match? I call these match plays. But it's not something that you want to keep practicing on the day to day to day, even though it'll make you more confident when match time comes around because one, teams are going to get adjusted to it, which is what happened to me. Teams are going to get used to you doing these certain plays. You're going to start getting punished for it, and now you have nothing else to fall back on. So the best thing that I can say, just advice to other coaches, et cetera, out there is still nail down the fundamentals, and you should always be practicing the high percentage win play. When it comes to match time, let the players fucking do what they want to do. You know what I mean? And if you notice your players getting too over aggressive and it's just not working, then that's that timeout where you're like, yo, I know this shit works for you, but you're getting punished this time around. Fall back on the shit that we practiced on. You know what I mean? Those fundamentals. I think that's the only way you can go about this in a consistent manner. Otherwise, you're gonna hit two ends of the spectrum where you're a team that plays way too by the book and you're readable as fuck, like MIBR. You know what I mean? Or you're just gonna get fucking punished for going way too over aggressive all the fucking time, like PRX. Right? So it's like the reason why G2 is so fucking good is because in these matches as well, they do have individuals step up and make plays. It's not like they're just completely by the book the entire way through. They still have, X factors in the middle of the match, but they don't go into scrims trying to practice one player popping the fuck off doing dumb shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that's the healthiest way to do it.
Sure, yeah.
I agree.
It's tricky, but it's definitely interesting. It's almost like some sort of like skill check, like you're in like a God of War cinematic moment that you need to press A at the right time. That's just like a player in a series that he has to make sure that he hits at the right time because you only get one shot at that. To
Seriously.
just have like a turnaround moment because it could just boom teams. But also, I think one of the sides of the game that is going to, at least with duelists in the future, for sure, is sort of knowing and reading. Like I imagine with you, like Baby Bay, like when you were taking time to when it was going well, it was easy to keep doing that. But like your mental, if you try to do stuff and you realize that the enemy team is focusing on you, that there's nano swarms in the places that you typically dash to on site, and
Yeah.
you're like, what the fuck? They're just focusing me. How easy it is to kind of overthink that and try to do more, and then it ends up sort of falling off the face of the earth with form. Versus, okay, they're putting a lot of time and effort into taking me out. Everybody else should have a bit more freedom. I'm going to keep doing
Yeah.
this. You go from like being the entry duelist to almost being like a World of Warcraft tank. That let me be the focus. You guys go and make the play. And I think that's something that Dirk was always really good at. Is just this isn't the map or the game for me to shine, but it's the map for me to give you guys an opportunity
Yeah.
and making it
And
less about themselves.
and that's also where trust plays a huge factor in it, right? And this is a skill that a lot of duelists right now, probably currently in the league as well, but most definitely in tier two, the duelists in tier two have the biggest problem with. And I get asked this question like, "Oh, like baby, how could I get better?" Whatever, whatever. Like from these duelists in tier two, and I'm just like, bro, when the time is right, you're gonna fucking pop off and you're gonna have an amazing game. But you don't need to always be the focus of winning. And this is why I like Frost so much as a coach, because I actually wish I had him coach me. Because I'm a player that understands that with just my presence alone and teams focusing me, now we can win with other keys, with the other players on the server. And I'm not gonna my mindset isn't a point where it's like, oh, I'm duelist. I should always be the one at the top of the scoreboard. I need to be the one like that's in the limelight, everything like that. If you go back during my Smeeg era, watch all my interviews, I get hella props to everybody. I'm like, dude, without them throwing all this fucking utility for me, I wouldn't be able to pop off, whatever, whatever. You know what I mean?
I
For
was going to say
me,
there's no me in Smeeg, but that's
yeah.
not quite true either, is it? So
But yeah, exactly. But for me, it doesn't matter how we get there. I want to win, bro, because nobody fucking care. Like, okay, I get it. Like having the clout of always popping off is great, but you know what's like better than having clout is fucking winning the world championship, bro. That was always my goal, and I don't care how I get there, bro. I could be negative 30, bro. I could have everybody trashing me, saying I'm fucking ass. I don't deserve to be on the team. But if it's because I'm getting hard focused and I'm doing my fucking job, and my teammates are stepping up for me, and they're the ones that are closing out the game, then we're doing something right, and we won. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter how the fuck you win as long as you get that win. And there's many different ways to win in this game of Valorant. That's what I love about it so much. And I know I'm always gonna have that moment where I can turn the fuck up, especially if the other team isn't on point. They're not shutting me down when I'm getting aggressive. But I
Mm.
also need to understand that it is a team game and you don't always have to like have all that pressure on your own shoulders. So in my whole mindset when I was during the Schmieg era was like, dude, I had so much trust in all of them. I'm like, dude, even if I die early, I'm sure I did enough. You know what I mean? And that was big. That was a big learning curve for me as well on Neon because on Neon you have these games where you're like fucking owning everybody. You're sliding in, insting the first guy. You get 2, 3 more in the post plant. Fucking great, bro. But in reality, on Neon, you have so much gravity on the character, and this is something that Frost talks about as well. People are going to overly compensate to try to punish you because it could be kind of easy to sometimes to make it a 4v5. But with all that space that I gather, even if I get punished, now all of a sudden my team's at an advantage. Maybe we get the bomb planted. You know, maybe we're in a good post with all this utility still. Like, I understand that there's more than one way to win in this game. I think aspas understands that as well, which is amazing.
Sure. Like I look
Yeah,
at it as
somebody. Yeah.
well with like previous duelists. Like I think the biggest apology still now needs to go to players like Defo when he was on Gambit, and like how people looked at his stats a lot, and like how you know as a duelist he's not outperforming Chronicle or Nats on this team or Jados, but he was doing his job so well, and
Yeah.
you could just tell that he didn't really care if he was going like 5 and 13 when you have some of the best players in the world trading some of those kills anyway and still finding success. And you know, I think it's just stuff like that that we still get a little bit wrong, really. And it's interesting to sort of like look at it in those aspects of being like this player has too much pressure on him to be performance statistically versus yeah, actually at this point this player does need to step up and perform a little bit better. And especially when it comes to like talking about players or berating them on broadcast and stuff, like that's a hard metric to follow. As somebody that was absolutely, I started boycotting watching tech in China because I got so mad at watching them that I was like, I'm just going to turn off the stream. Like, I'm done watching them for the rest of the day. There's no point. And that's a team with RB on it, right? Like, it's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
tricky that it's like got to that point, but sometimes, yeah, you just want to hound people for content, but you also need to be like, this player needs to perform a little bit better, or it's not on this player to be doing all of the work. And
The system and yeah, there's so
yeah,
much that
yeah,
goes into it.
there's somebody to
Oh, yeah.
blame, but it's not like it's almost like you know when you get pain like in your neck or your ear, you go to a doctor's and they go, it's actually nothing to do with those spaces, it's to do with like this side of the body because this
Mm,
is really tense. You're having pain on this side. It's the same thing watching teams. You might see that the duelist is underperforming, but it's nothing to do with him. He's doing his job. He's just not set up to actually have any impact, and other people aren't filling in those spots. Like
yeah.
it's a symptom, not the cause, a lot of the time.
Yeah. I'll be quick about this, but yeah. So what you're talking about, Ryan, I've talked about here. It's gravity. It's good. Good duelists have gravity. So for us,
Mhm.
it's governor, and on the backside, oftentimes you would have ban basically being the sole recipient of a great one-on-one on attack, for instance, right? Because you know the defense starts to shift. So it's either they safe rotate or they push. Sometimes they push. Ban puts them down. It's the Munchkin thing all over again. Like right. So like it's easy to get these frags when like you're you're like kind of able to take advantage of sort of what Texture is doing on the other side, or the silent 4-1 walk up everybody has to deal with. All of a sudden, they start over rotating the moment contact's made because they know, oh shit, they're in this 4-on-1. You know, you think 3 bomb site map, think Lotus. That's why they're so successful on it. Chicken has 2 lanes to attack now. You know what I mean? Like it's like it seems so like easy when you play paper Valorant, but oftentimes when you're a really good team, that's what you can do. You can just play paper Valorant and still beat them because you're just that good. Like you are so good at the fundamentals, you're so good at understanding sort of like time and place that you're able to just like, make very easy decisions, but you get the payoff. And it looks easy, and it's so easy you could be like, bro, everybody should do this. You know, every IGL should be dropping 40. Like, but sometimes it's like you have to acknowledge that your team is special and what you have is special and what you're doing is done at such a high level that it makes everyone else's job easier. A
Yeah.
la the whole texture thing too, where everybody's like he's the best duelist in the world, and obviously for many weeks and pretty much every episode on the show, I'm like, no, he's not. It's aspas. But that's why texture could go from GE to now all of a sudden he's like the best duelist in the world to everybody's mind. It's because what he looks like, it looks like he's putting everybody down with ease. It's like, yeah, because you guys don't understand the pressure that Gen G puts on you. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, they have an amazing play style.
uh,
Anyways, we could go on for hours talking about the nuance of this stuff, but we got some other topics we gotta hit, and one that I want to hit is the pressure that Anderzz has to pay his own way to Seoul. Um, yeah, that was crazy. I can't believe it. And I guess you know what? I guess it kind of answers our question though, of why is this guy not being signed to Fnatic when he keeps coming back and everything? And it's the same problem that you have right now in terms of like you saying that you would literally, if Talon had the bag, you would fucking get him right away. And I think that's what we're seeing. So it's clear that Fnatic just maybe doesn't have the budget to actually sign him on as a full time thing. Maybe they do have the budget, they're just not willing to give it. But
yeah, are you a big org or are you a small org?
we'll give him the benefit of the
Like,
doubt, and we'll just say that there's just no
yeah,
room for budget right now. Which I mean, at,
yeah,
at this time in esports, it's been pretty bad. And that's a whole nother conversation for another time,
right.
which maybe we'll have, maybe we won't ever have. But yeah, there's been like the dark winter in esports. Everybody knows about that.
Yeah, I
The
feel for him.
correction.
I hope people
Yeah,
donate to his stream. I hope he ends up over
for real.
here.
Everybody that watches this,
His
bro, if you
Patreon
guys
is
are a
worth
fan,
it. Like
yeah,
just for just Premier Strap books, like you've got your like Coach Potatoes and stuff with like Sliggy and
Uh-huh.
Mini doing stuff, but like Anders, like tier list, like talking about comps, like his POV and stuff, like it's worth
Dude,
it if you're just even playing the game like in Plat 2 or whatever, just seeing sort
yeah.
of where the meta's swinging at the moment. But I mean, I'm not as gung ho on this against Fnatic as most people, because the way that I see it is, if they're not paying for his travel, like he's a remote show, if he's doing a lot of like comp related stuff, maybe the money that they would save on his hotel and flights might go towards paying a salary, like 3 months of it. But I just, the thing that frustrates me is I feel like the work is seen through such a dumb lens almost of, let's just get him into like bringing the comps and the fundamentals and stuff, right? That his only use is to like what he cooks up on a map, when he has the ability to not only help you set up the comp, he's probably got the counter to that comp. Because let's be honest, most teams will just take what Fnatic are going to do on Abyss or whatever and just run it themselves. Already, you've got Anderzz. It's like, I know how to beat these comps, but I also know how to make our comp better than the counter for our. Like, it feels like this is not just a here are the 5 agents to play on Abyss. I'm going to go now. Like, this is a progressive thing that you need to keep working on. And I just don't think he gets the respect as a coach as he should. Like, it's not just him taking Magic the Gathering role dynamics and stuff into the game and just making it work. I think that there's a subsection of either coaches or analysts or previous players that just like to shit on Anderzz because it's such a high like skill curve or way of thinking the game. They just want to diminish it and be like, this is like horse shit. Like, it's almost like when a lot of the CS people moved over to Valorant, that a lot of the Overwatch thinking, for example, and how abilities can be put together, or MOBA ways of thinking about the game, gets shut down because it's like, oh, this is a attack shooter. Like, CS players know best. Nobody else can compare. Or when you have, I've forgotten who it was, but it was a Sentinels doing like poker effective value percentages and stuff like that. And people, what I like about Valorant is I feel that there's so many different philosophies of what you can bring into this game, and they all have value. Like, the data centric style dynamics way of Anderz's approach is good. It works clearly because it's behind some of the best comps that we've seen and long winded comps that we've seen in the game with stuff like Lotus. But it does have its weaknesses. Like data can be really misleading, and if you put too much focus on it, you kind of lose the wood for the trees, right? But I think that there are a lot of people that try to lessen like Anderz's impact because they're self-conscious almost, right? That they don't feel that they understand enough about the game when you have people bringing ideas like this into the game. I'm not saying that it's always right, but it's I just think that there's this. Let's just take the comps and then leave. Whereas I think that him as a coach can provide so much more. It's more whether he wants to assistant coach or whether he wants to lead the line. Because one thing to say about him, he's very headstrong about his opinion, but when it works out consistently, yeah, no shit, he's going to be like, yeah, I think the way that I think about the game is right.
I could write a book about this. I'm not. All I'm gonna say is this: I don't like. So I do think you're right. So I don't need to say anything.
I loved your
take.
take. I loved your take, by the way. 100%.
I've always hated this, and I still hate this about people in esports in general, but people in life are like this. I don't know why people think that you can't learn something from someone else that doesn't have your accomplishments. Dude, I'm not gonna get on this but if you knew how many world championships I have and how many different games and all the shit that I've actually done, if you've actually done your research, you'll know I don't have to listen to 99% of you in Valorant, actually. That includes you. That includes you, Andre. You know, right? I don't have to. My experience alone and what I've done alone should be enough for me to trust my own opinion. Dude, some of my most trusted and valued people, I'm going to mention here. Jovi, right? FlyQuest coach. King Fred, FlyQuest assistant coach, right? Power Pixel, GC.
Yeah.
GC. I'm going to mention that again, right?
Yep.
Precision, former TSM Academy.
Here too. Yeah.
These are people that I actually respect enough to ask. I'm gonna label one thing here too. This year, some of the comps I've run this year, I've gone to them. Oh, Mr. Funhaver, Miniature.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love Mini.
I go to them and go, what do you think about this? Compare my credentials to all of them combined. Why do I listen to them? Why do I listen to them?
That's the fun part of the job. It's like math club, right? It's just you want to be. You're going to get better if you surround yourself with people that give a shit about the same sort of stuff.
Of course, because the truth is, it doesn't. In all honesty, what you've done only says what you have done. But what's happening now, sometimes you just can't see or don't see. There are other people that do not have your accomplishments or your intuition or your value or your perceived value or whatever the fuck else.
Yeah.
But they are more in tune with what is going on now. And the people I mentioned, I just think are also smart and I respect their opinion. So it's like I ask. But you notice I'm not talking to you about Nitro, Hiko. I'm not talking to you about Steel. I'm not talking about all the guys I've been with in the past that are tenured and have high IQ and high acumen. I don't go to them for their opinions on this. So why is it that I value the people I mentioned, who most people that watch this have no idea who the fuck those guys are? Why do I value their opinion sometimes more than I do my own players? Because sometimes you meet people, you speak to people, you know people that impress you enough that you start to realize, wow, this person's value is way more than I think the perceived value or the perception of their value would dictate. I'm going to keep this person around me because I think they have a lot to say. And one thing you got to know about me, Miniature, Funhaver, Jovi, Fred, Power, Precision, none of them are like me at all. We could not be more opposite. The only one that maybe somewhat you could say is a little like me is Jovi, but not even. If you know me and Jovi, me and that guy are like the exact opposite. Everyone likes Jovi. Super, like his interpersonal communication is at 100. Everyone likes him. He's so nice. He's so caring. He's so fuck that, bro. I'm the exact opposite of that, right? The perception of me is like the exact opposite, but it doesn't matter. We get along. We love each other. We're homies. Like I totally respect his opinion, right? Like when I give him an opinion on what I'm seeing from his teams, he doesn't dismiss it. He's like, all right, bro, I got you. Like I see that. Like we'll work on it. You know what I mean? Like same thing goes both ways. Fred will be like, "Yo, I don't like what you guys did on this default. This is kind of stupid." I look at it and be like, "Is it really stupid?" Like, but these people have like no bearing on like the top level Valorant. Everybody would dismiss them just like they do Anderzz, right? And it's like, you know, it is what it is. So like the point I'm making is I don't know why some of these people have such high opinions. Because someone like me can just easily flex and just be like, "Excuse me, you did what in CS? You did what in this? How long have you been doing this?" Blah, 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 right? And I don't do that to people most of you have never heard of. And that's and like that to me is just it just speaks to the level, I think, of what's it speaks to the level of, I think, arrogance that currently exists
Ego and arrogance.
with the like, I don't want to say the clout machine that's built around Valorant, but I just think in general it's like, I'll just come out and say it. I just think Valorant has one thing that CS has, but they like just overtune it. I think everyone's personal self-worth in Valorant, they just turn the dial on it all the way. Like in CS, I don't think people have been this stubborn. Actually, in my time in CS, I don't remember a community or like, you know, analysts and casters especially. No disrespect, Ryan. I'm not trying to be or
Oh no, that's
you,
fine. Shit dog.
I've never seen people more
that's
stubborn.
the difference, though. Like I feel like that for me is exactly it. It's like I want people to disagree with me. And I remember like with people saying like back when you did the Chobra video where you're talking about the players as product. I remember seeing people being like, I don't know how I feel about him sort of talking about players as if they're like livestock. But it's like for me, if I was a player, I would love that because I feel like you just get past all the horse shit. I always gravitate for good and bad reasons to people that sort of tell it as it is. Like I don't like small talk. I don't want to work with talent that are like, yeah, that section was good, but in reality, they're just either thinking to themselves, that wasn't good at all, or they're talking to other people, be like, yeah, this Telestrator Ryan did was shit. Like if I do something bad, I want somebody to just be upfront about it because otherwise, it's a waste of fucking time. And if there's something that you guys do that I don't like, I'm not telling you to be a dick about it. I'm telling you, like, hey, I like you enough to be like, my instinct is I don't like this. And I'm either telling you that you think about it and go, actually, yeah, you're right. Or I'm waiting to hear you challenge my opinion for me to go, huh. And this could get really like into the political atmosphere. It just feels like so much echo chamber stuff going on. Like,
that's all it is.
Nobody wants to listen to other sides of like debates and stuff. And I think there's also that part of like your brain when you're learning stuff, you know, it puts a lot of effort into learning stuff to like when Valorant first came out, everybody's like, you know, learn and experience the game. You're not going to get tilted in ranks because it's a new game. It's like a chance to grow. At a certain point, your brain goes, you've learned everything you need to learn about playing Jet or whatever. So when you see somebody else like picking, I don't know, Jet on Lotus instead of Raze, your brain goes, they're fucking stupid. Why would they ever do that? And you need to like dial it back and be like, hold on, is there any merit to this? And I think that's why I'll always like glaze like Sliggy's watch party because he always tries to be like benefit of the doubt and stuff. Whereas a lot of like, if you watch pros watch party, they're just like, this play is just throwing. Why is he doing that? But there might actually be a genuinely good reason if you just sit and think like, is this worthwhile? Is it worth doing? I just think that, like you said, people get so invested in their own self-worth, but I think they surround themselves with people that either don't tell it to them that, hey, I think the way that you view this is wrong, or that they're around people that don't care. They're like, yeah, whatever, mate. Like if you think they're playing Jet is bad on Lotus, you say that.
I think
reality,
you said it the best, and we can move on. It's simply time. I have at least have enough respect for people that I won't waste your time. If I don't like you, you'll know it. If I don't like your content for the most part, and me just saying for the most part bothers you, unlucky. But like, I don't want to waste people's time because I understand how valuable it is. And the older I get, the more I understand.
Same, bro.
I would much rather just tell you, deal with the repercussions afterwards, and if we can move on and be friends, or move on and just move on, then it is what it is. But time is very important, and that's I think people would much rather. I got shit for this, for the phrase that I found out that certain Koreans have, and I think that was the way I understood it and perceived it is how I understood why I'm having these problems in APAC, right? Like the notion that like it's better to like stab you in the back than smack you in the face, to me is just weird, because to me it's like, or I could just have a conversation with you and just get to, and then we saw, and then instead of it being like this like really bad, you know, situation, we might be able to, the conflict resolution might result in us being very good friends. Or you just do what I ask, everything works out, and now you become my best teammate. Like it's just so weird, I think, how people rather avoid tough conversations and create much larger, like, problematic situations. And I've kind of been confused by that, and I know, and I'm only mentioning this, baby, because he mentioned the coaching thing that we did in VCT Pacific, and like in there, I basically said like I would much rather just let's talk about replacing players and basically going like, I just don't got time for this shit. Like we're not a family. We're literally trying to win. If you can't help me win, I'd rather you just go. Right. And that seems so callous, but in reality, it's time. It's why am I going to waste 4 other players' time if we simply cannot win with you?
Sometimes it just is what it is, though. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
But like you have to have that hard conversation. Yeah, I had the hard conversation with Lenny.
It's our livelihood, dude. Like, what are we gonna do? It's our fucking
Yeah.
livelihood. Like, if you're not cut out for it because of your own reasons or external reasons, sometimes it might not even be you. Maybe just the team just doesn't fuck with you. But majority of the team, you gotta side with them.
Yeah,
because
and on
it's
the
better
small
for
last
your
bit,
future,
I also think this thing about Anderzz is also about self-preservation. Maybe people just don't like guys like him around because then they realize, wait a minute,
I might take my
why
job.
am I here again?
Yeah, they might
And
take
this
my
is
job.
this is what I call the Valorant. But I have never seen self-preservation tactics more in an esport than I have in Valorant. And I've been around.
It's not working anymore either. Like EMEA, right? You've got Latex going into head coach from assistant coach, Gorilla for Vitality, assistant coach to head coach. Ito from Leviathan, assistant coach to head coach. Like it's starting. Like I do agree. There's some coaches, head coaches that are being surpassed by the Padawan, right? Like and that's naturally just a part of any sport. Anyway, like you're setting up these players to effectively take your job in the future, and like Anderzz deserves at that level too.
There's one thing though about traditional sports that I wish was in gaming, especially in this game of Valorant, and it's if you're fucking good at a sport, bro, people are gonna recognize that and they're gonna recruit you, bro. And I'm not even talking about this for me, but I guarantee you right now, there's players in the league, and we don't have to talk about names that do not deserve to be here that other players should have had the roster slot for, and they only made it because they're fucking cool with other people. You know what I mean? The politic game. And that's another thing that I think is so fucking bullshit. And like I get it. There's probably politics in sports too. You know what I mean? I understand that, but it's not as heavy because at the end of the day, the reason why sports are so successful and these organizations in sports are so successful is because they all try to be the best. You know what I mean? They truly want to be the best. And I can fucking confidently say that there's organizations in the league that are not. They don't have that goal of trying to fucking win. And it's like, why the fuck are you even here?
They don't.
I don't fucking get it, bro. Like, and you can tell by the even when we talked about this, even up in management, like who is the management they're getting, who is the coach they're getting, who are the players that they're getting. You know what I mean? It's some of it is a fucking joke. But either way, we're gonna move on from this. And this is we're just gonna go quick on this. Navi are doing a complete rebuild. I'm sure we all sent our DMs in. I sent my DM in for sure.
That's so
maybe
funny.
we should go. Maybe we should do a little fucking package deal, bro. All of us on here right now. Yo, guys, put us in a room with the original players with baseball bats. Nah, I'm playing.
Yeah. I was only going to EMEA for one team. Can't do EMEA, fam.
Yeah.
Can't do EMEA, bro. No offense to Berlin. No offense to Germany. Oh man, I just upset the German community. I can already see.
Oh,
it.
you fucked up, bro.
Not a fan of the food. Not a fan of the place. I'm straight.
I mean, I don't like
So-
Berlin. I think that's
Yeah,
that's one of the
Nope.
silver linings.
Right?
Like
Nope.
Cologne,
Give me
I think,
is,
like
Berlin
West
is the
Germany,
make
I
it or
like.
break
Cologne's
it.
good, yeah.
What if
Even
you're
South,
getting paid
even
the
Munich
bag,
is
bro?
good, but
What if you're getting
nah,
paid the
dog.
bag? Does it even matter?
No.
So
I
you're
have to
saying
double the
there's
bag. You
there's
double the
no
bag,
price?
I'm
Why do
in
you
there.
think I'm
Okay,
Double the
okay,
bag, double the
everyone
bag,
has a
double the bag.
price. Everyone has a
price,
fucking
right?
price.
Double the bag, double the bag.
If you're gonna go for the bag, just aim for China, mate. Like at least there's like.
I
tried
love
the
Shanghai.
production
I
was
and
dog
stuff
shit
like
too.
Changsha.
I fucking
tried.
love Shanghai. Oh
Bro,
my
I tried.
God,
They
love
said I was
Shanghai.
dog shit too, bro. Earth. Yeah, bro. I tried.
Yo,
They were like, fuck you, bro.
random fucking tidbit about China and people moving there for the bag. You know, when I was there, Kenny S was there for like a whole fucking month, bro. And then like I was talking to some people because, by the way, I was like, what the fuck is Kenny S doing here? I remember like I was at one of the riot after parties or something with Grabbits. He was performing, and like I turn around and I'm like, is that fucking Kenny S, bro? And then like somebody tells me, yeah, he's here because he's trying to see like how his fan base is over here, you know, and whatever. He might move here. No, that motherfucker's he's smart as hell though, because he has like a big fucking fan base out in China, out in Shanghai. So
But the
he's
Heretics players were
about to go
streaming on
crazy.
Billy and stuff, and they were
Dude.
getting like instantly
Bro.
like 15K viewers
bro,
and stuff like that.
Benji became a fucking star in Shanghai, in China because of his streams there. Yeah, him and fucking Wu. Yeah, dude, they blew the fuck up, man. Even the Gen G guys, even though I know some of them were getting, you know, berated by some of the
Yeah, because
yeah,
but that's
at
League of Legends
politics,
shit.
yeah.
That's League of Legends shit,
Yeah, but
basically.
still.
But it's bothering the
Yeah.
Very poetic that Gen G the win Shanghai
Bro,
being, I believe, China's first major, right? That was China's first major in Valorant, correct?
They won in they
And
won
Gen
MSI
G
as well
won
in
it.
League.
Yeah,
Bro.
given that bullshit. So I think that is kind of hilarious.
bro, it was so quiet. I shit you not, it was so quiet in the arena.
100%, bro, because they were hella mad, bro.
And I made sure to say it on the broadcast as well. I was like, yo, they shut up everybody in this fucking place. I was
Yeah.
like, I had to say it. I'm like, bro.
Yeah, I'm surprised they were able to leave the country. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign that that diplomacy is somehow working.
I'll tell you what,
but
if
anyways,
it was the other way around, bro, I don't know if you're making it out of Korea, bro. Like, I'll tell you what, bro.
By the end of this, oh,
Yo,
bro, wait.
With all the feedback I got from the Fnatic Gen G cast, bro, I don't know if I would have left that arena in one piece if it was in Seoul, bro. I don't know. I
Yeah,
might have
bro,
to be
listen,
careful while I'm
bro.
there, bro.
People out here
Even
different
though
too,
all
bro.
my friends are fucking Korean, all of them are fucking Korean.
Doesn't matter.
I don't
though.
know, man. Like, I don't know,
Hey,
bro.
but
I
at
guess,
least though, it's fans. At least it's not a peer saying it on broadcast
yeah, that is
openly.
true. That is true.
I don't know if you saw that, Ryan. I'll try to find it for you, but yeah,
Just
I
send
don't
it
know if
to
you
him
know
in
what
the
we're talking
DMs,
about,
bro.
but yeah.
Speaking of peers, Zellsis mentioned something that we've been talking about, but he mentioned it for NA, and that's the scrim leak shit. So we have this clip of him getting interviewed, and he's saying how it's kind of tough now, even in NA, to like, you know, who are you going to scrim against? Are there friends of players on tier 1 teams on this tier 2 team you're playing against? Like, that's how deep this shit goes. And I'm glad that he's acknowledging it now too as an active player, because now's like the more that people
Active
talk
coach
about
wasn't
it,
enough. Active coach wasn't
Yeah.
enough. No, man.
But
Active. I repeat,
It's-
active coach wasn't enough.
it's but it's not even that. It's just the more people that talk about it
No, I know,
and bring it
yeah,
to
yeah.
light, the better it's gonna be for everybody. You know what I mean? And it's gonna actually implement that shit. I don't know if you've been keeping up with that type of stuff, Ryan, but it's been getting more popular now because in the rule books of Riot right now, there is no rule saying you cannot share scrim VODs or whatever. So right now, it's technically okay to do so. Like obviously it's like a moral no, you know, from all the teams and
Yeah.
everybody. Obviously, we all will shun you if you do that as players, as professionals. But there's nothing that can be done about it. Like there's no punishment for it. So we're just trying to get it implemented into the rule book for next year at least. It is what it is for this year. Fine, whatever. The more people that talk about it, the more
Yeah, just giving
Riot will
Riot,
do
I
less.
guess, the freedom to investigate into that more, I
Exactly. Or
guess.
just make a rule, you know, and then if actual evidence, you know, comes to be, there should be something that's done about it. That's all we want. We just want the rule there. They can figure out what the punishment is themselves. It just needs to be in there to dissuade people from thinking about it in the first place. All right, we're moving on to our champions brackets. We're finally here. And Group A, we start with a banger. Fnatic versus Billy Gaming. Now, Ryan, you're the expert here on Valorant China. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit ignorant to it. I am big fans of teams like FPX and EDG, who I actually keep track of, but Billy was not on my radar. Obviously, everyone knows Billy for the NRG game from fucking last champs. But
True.
Yeah.
now they go first round against Fnatic. I have Fnatic winning this one. I just want to get your opinion on Billy in this matchup against Fnatic as well, and then Frost, you come in whenever the hell you want.
Yeah, Billy had the chance to do the funniest thing. I mean, I think for the fourth slot team, it was between them and JDG and DRG effectively.
Mhm.
And I think that Billy were like okay in like the first stage, but they made a couple of like roster moves. They brought in Flexin that used to be on Trace, then moved to Tyloo, and then obviously went to Billy. They brought in Neff actually from the old Bleed team
Mhm.
because he was on the Ascension team that qualified Bleed to Tier 1, but he
Yeah.
had to leave for military service. But much like Jing, he didn't have to do military service, so he got a good opportunity to play. Like Blade have basically had a horrible time this year anyway, but having to play like Neff, have to leave and then go to another team instead of completing his service, sucks for them. But he also got Bale as well, who was at Gen G, and the structure that this team has added in such a short amount of time has been really good to watch. Like Wisey was one of the household names, I think, from last champs with some of the judge plays he had. Going from that into Evolution, which was kind of like the tier 2 VCL, but also you had teams like EDG and FPX playing in it throughout the end of last year. Wisey fell off massively. Like eye test, he just wasn't the same player. You could sort of tell that he was kind of like we were saying about Duelist, like he was struggling to be like, I used to be here, now I'm here, but because I'm putting in so much effort to get back up to here, I'm now down here. Like he was trying too hard, but now he's playing some of the best Valorant. Bianca's no longer on the team, which is kind of sad, but like players like Yosemite, K-Knight, they've been performing really nicely. I still think it's going to be really hard to beat Fnatic, but considering that Billy, they took a map and had a close series against DDG and also FPX in playoffs, I think that Billy could pick up a map, and depending on how confident they feel, they could do a lot. But it's just like Fnatic in these kind of games usually don't take prisoners. They usually come into events and kind of look very tight and clean, and especially if you've got Anderzz coming in cooking up either obviously like new comps for Abyss and stuff, but I could see him potentially doing some work on other maps like Icebox, where I think Fnatic have a bit of an identity crisis. They were known for having like that Sage Jet Viper Silver kind of comp. They've moved away for it to try different things. I could see like maps like Icebox be built a certain way, right? So it's gonna be really hard for Billy, but I don't know. I find it really awkward to rate the China teams. I even tweeted like I don't think any of the China teams are making it out of groups because like stylistically, all of the groups are nightmares for the teams. Like it's literally they have to beat their inner demons to qualify out of groups. Because teams like Trace in Group C, like Trace are a really good structured team, but I don't think they're gonna do very well up against the likes of even Vitality, obviously Talon and stuff, because these are teams that know how to play off the beaten track a little bit. So if you go up against Trace, you know that they want to play proper Valorant. So you just make sure that they can, either by throwing weird comps at them that they just end up panicking against, or you just stop them from trying to play retake, right? They're like, oh, I'm going to get my silver in position to recode that. You just make sure that you push like Boba and CT and just get in their faces, and they'll like start shaking like a shitting dog. They'll just completely fall apart. But it's really tough, I think, for Billy to kind of have that impact because again, like they have so much to catch up on, and they're up against teams that have it all worked out, right?
Bro, I
agree.
just before you spit Frost, bro. I don't know what the title of this episode is gonna be, but it might have to be "They're just shaking like a shitting dog," bro.
I use it too much, but
That might be the fucking title of this episode, bro.
I don't know
I'll
if
have to
the
find
kids
a
gonna like
round
that
actually.
one, but
I saw a
God.
clip from I forgot this round. I saw somebody like share it in Discord of a round with Billy in it, and it is the most outrageous round you've ever seen. Like I watched it again today. I'll have to find it, and I don't know if you could like actively show it, but it was
You put it in post.
outrageous. Yeah,
if you can find the link, I can throw it up.
Yeah, I'll put it in the group chat now. It is I mean, it's great when you watch China be able to do this kind of stuff. And I almost feel that when series and maps get that kind of crazy and that muddy, it really suits the Chinese teams. I just don't think Fnatic is going to allow it to get that wild.
Oh, yeah, there's no way.
You did say something that I think is interesting. You said Fnatic is like really clean and like, you know, blah, 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 and like all this stuff. And though I think you're correct, I would be surprised if Fnatic was in here.
Because FPX versus BLG. And like this is the third map.
This clip is crazy, bro. This clip is crazy.
I'm
bro.
watching this.
Yo, what if Ban did that, bro?
Well,
he misses the jump on the box, bro. How are we doing that?
I gotta say, like, I have flamed the shit out of flexing on Trace, on Tyloo, because he's just one of those controller players that will just keep pushing you and fighting you despite it not going very well. I like this whole round is just and of course it's fucking Lysol that's winning out the clutch as well, and he's acting like it's just a normal day in the office for that to happen. But,
I mean, I think so. Full transparency, I thought JDG was the fourth best team in China.
It got very good very quickly. Like it's a hell of a turnaround.
I was shocked that Billy even made it. So lol. I'll just say I'll go back to my Fnatic point, and this is the only thing I'll say about Fnatic. It should look ugly because if Fnatic goes in here and actually shows anything before they play DRX, I would be shocked. Because why would you? You should be able to wake up and just beat this team. Now, I say this as a guy that thought the same thing about my team on Zeta because I had no participation in that. And then look what the fuck happened. But if you're a good team, you should be able to put teams away and literally put no effort into it, right? Like, I feel like this is a game where like it's going to probably look uglier than people think because if I'm Fnatic, I just go,
like a warm-up game almost. It's
basically
almost like a warm-up game.
We are fine. We should be able to win this. We should not be exposing anything. Let's just beat the RX, make it clean, get out of groups, and focus on, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't expect actually it to look that clean because they should be pugging it out almost. And all that seems weird, but I think when you have to play a long tournament, you have to be very tactical about what you show, what maps you're like. An example. Now, this is something I would do because this is just me. Certainly, I'm not picking maps against Billy that I really want to pick against DRX or anybody else. I'm literally picking our worst maps in order because I think we should just
most obvious. You go because
I did this on 100 Thieves.
What's our permaban so far? Like we'll just keep doing that, and then you like shift it.
Yeah. On 100 Thieves, that's literally what I was doing. I actually talked to Higo yesterday, and we were kind of like reminiscing. And one of the things we reminisced about was like, you know, things we did in preparation for games, and sometimes just like, you know, what I mentioned. We didn't talk about that specifically. We talked about other things, but this is one of the things that we did. We were like, okay, who are we playing? We got Gen G, the old Gen G with blank.
Yeah.
We got Gen G. All right, bro, we're playing split. Even though we don't play split, we're gonna pick split. We're gonna work on it. It's gonna be, you know.
And then if you beat them on it and you look good doing it, now all of a sudden
the
rest
team
of
is
the teams
scared.
in the tournament are like, wait, what the fuck, bro? They've been holding this all season, bro. In reality, you just played a weaker team. Yeah, I get it.
So my expectation for this match is Fnatic should not look as, I mean, they're probably gonna look clean because they're beating their ass. But it's not gonna be the Fnatic you're gonna see when they play DRX. Is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a much different team.
Especially with Hero coming in too. Just like first international game, just like temper expectations, play stuff we're comfortable with before we start playing like maps to win. But that's the other thing about Anderzz as well. Like the Lotus comp, you could see Fnatic win that 11 times in a row, and you still feel like I haven't seen Fnatic do anything. You know, like it's not like the Optic at old international events. They'd always had a bit of a default. That's why they were always so good at international events, because like you said, they paced themselves. But they were also very good at adding in new things when they needed to, back when like Ye was on Chamber and stuff, and like bits and gaps that they'd have in their default. Next time they play it, they'd fill it, whether it was anti-strat against the team in particular or just we need to keep adding stuff here because this is a bit of a gap. Like Optic were good at that. But for you know that Leo was always going to play like on A main on defense, and he was going to throw the exact same fade horn over and over, the same viper wall over and over. But it didn't matter because that playbook was so dense. A round would start the same as it has done for the last 1,000 times. But you've almost got this like workflow of if they do this, do that. If they do this and then do this, you do that. Like it didn't matter if you knew what Fnatic was going to do with their defaults, with their comps. You couldn't stop it. So even then, if Fnatic go into an event like this where they play like Haven, Ascent, Icebox in the most vanilla comps, you could tell Billy beforehand, hey, we're going to run these comps on, we're going to play these maps and run these comps.
They won't be able to stop.
You won't be able to do anything. And that's not a slight to like Billy. I think you could do that with more than half the teams at this event and it would work because it's a whole different game that Fnatic was so good at that I hope that now, especially with Anderzz on board, they're able to get back into that spirit, especially with like Mini still there, Boaster focusing more individually, and also like Elmer Putty as well. I think it's easy to be like almost ignore that he's there, right? But I think that if it's all under his tutorage, it'd be nice to see it all really come together in the right way.
No disrespect, but the Gen G coach on the teams that we would do that with was actually Elmer Putty. So that's why.
Yeah.
Unlucky.
Unlucky. Hey, anyways, move on to the next series, DRX versus Crew. So just to recap, Fnatic versus Billy. We all think Fnatic's gonna win. We'll do predictions, whatever. Fuck it, as we're going along too. But DRX versus Crew, I think this is gonna be a sick game, and I think it's gonna be a good test for Crew to see how they match up against another team in another region that's kind of like similar in playstyle, where it's like a firing squad type shit.
I would have thought Crew didn't have a chance because Crew's just too much of this.
Yeah.
But there's stuff, we won't talk about it on the show, but DRX and one of their players is going through something at the moment that is very serious. And I think now, with the distraction, pays a little bit more credence to Crew potentially having upset potential here. So, though I think DRX is still going to pull it through.
Definitely the favorites. I would say that.
Definitely think this has more upset potential now. This should be like, if there's an upset, this should be most people's upset because of.
That's what I was thinking.
Things going on. Yeah.
I think I got Crew on this one, and this was just because, I mean, obviously I'm in an A as well, but I just think that sometimes when you fight fire with fire against Crew, they have this fucking day where they just fucking shit on you in every aspect. It's like, dude, it's the weirdest shit ever, man. It's so fucking weird. So like, I don't know. Like every time I say that Crew's not gonna win, they fucking win. So I'm just gonna say they're gonna win, bro.
Somebody that's not watched any Crew since like stage 1 because it's on at this time for me, which is what, like 1 a.m.
Mm-hmm. And they own stage 1. That's the weird thing.
That's what I wanted to ask. Like, what was the difference between how Crew played in stage 1 versus them? Like, I didn't see their like elimination game, but people being like, it was embarrassing from Crew. Like, how did they go from one of the strongest teams in Americas to looking bad that people have been really critical of their performance?
Dude.
Like, what needs to change going into champs?
Bro, so in stage 1, the reason why they didn't qualify to make it to Shanghai was an Omega choke, bro. They looked like the best team. They went 5-0, I believe. Shit on everybody in that strength of schedule that they had, and they were doing it like convincingly. Like it was fucking very convincing. When they got to playoffs, I think they ran against G2 in the uppers, and G2 just like dismantled them, and they couldn't recover. Then they played Leviathan, and they just got also dismantled again. And like you could see it on their player cams, like it was like very like evident that they were tilted as fuck, bro. So then what they did was in the beginning of the next stage, I believe that maybe they played one game with Klaus, and then they just realized that, okay, this is not it. Like it just ain't it anymore. So they replaced him for MTA, who was a part of the roster for kickoff, but he got injured. He got like a hand injury. So they subbed him back in because he was supposed to be on the starting roster regardless. He just got injured and he couldn't play that whole stage 1. So from my understanding, it was basically along the lines of they just weren't fucking with the IGL at the time. And they just, that's what they did. So they went in the route, where they're bringing back the homie into the roster. And they struggled in stage 2 because he just kind of wasn't accustomed to the game yet, I feel like. he was on a new role, MTA. His Sova was looking fucking terrible in the beginning of stage 2. But as time went on, you could start seeing some good things from him. And I think he actually played pretty well to qualify for champs. He specifically had fucking huge moments against 100 Thieves that brought them over the edge. And actually they ended up beating 100 Thieves. And 100 Thieves also did some choking for sure. But MTA still, he had like a 1v3. He had like a crazy one. He won like 3 rounds on their defensive side of Ascent. That
Listen, bro.
otherwise, like 100 Thieves makes it by himself,
100 Thieves look like talent, bro. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, they choked.
The amount of throws they were, that was absolute. If I feel so bad, man, I wanted to see Marty so bad, bro. My former manager there. I actually was rooting for 100 Thieves this whole season to make champs. Specifically because one of my best friends I wanted to go see. Who's my former manager at 100 Thieves. I literally was rooting for them all season just to see him. Unlucky, bro. Tough.
Yeah. But yeah,
couldn't believe that throw.
Yeah, it was crazy. But Crew still, like, that's what I'm saying. So it's like you can't count them
out.
out.
But if
It's
Crew
like
can beat a team like 100
ever,
Thieves, they absolutely can beat DRX. Trust me, I felt them. I know.
And that might not be because Crew is better than DRX. It could just mean that DRX has a fucking bad day because of outside reasons, or because sometimes you just fucking play the game your first day on that fucking stage and you just can't fucking do it. It's just
home crowd, all that expectation.
So much shit that goes into it, right?
Yeah. I expect
it's definitely an upset. If Crew win, it's definitely an upset.
I definitely think Heat is gonna farm though.
Same.
He can, because just the way DRX plays. Yeah, I think DRX is the favorite for sure. To me, this is the most, bro. To me, this is basically a coin flip. This is like 55-45 DRX. So, but it's a lot closer than I think people might think. And this is like, I know all the stuff with me and Termy, but like, it's not disparaging. It's just I genuinely think that Crew, because if not Crew, this would have been 100 Thieves, right? Like, 100. I think 100 Thieves would have given them the work. So, it's just tough. I'll probably go DRX 55-45, but it is very close.
I'm going Crew just because if I don't, they're gonna fucking win. And it's not that I don't want them to win. It's just I just know how this shit works, bro. Now let's move on to Group B, and this is the most stacked group of all time. We were hinting at this earlier in the show. Literally the most stacked group of any year of Valorant. I mean, you got the first match is Gen G Sentinels. I mean, fuck, bro. Like that's first seed for Sentinels.
First game of the tournament as well, isn't it? First day.
Jesus, fuck, man, it's gonna be crazy, bro. So we have Gen G against Sentinels, and like, bro, I'm gonna be honest, bro. If it's the form that Sentinels is in, right, like in NA recently, there's no fucking way they're gonna beat Gen G. There's absolutely zero chance. I think Gen G will mop them if Sentinels look the way they did in NA. I'm for once gonna go Gen G here, even though I'm a big Sentinels fan and I love what they did this season.
But aren't you? What stack?
Yeah, I know, bro. I'm a Gen G hater, bro. But I have them to beat Sentinels, one of my favorite NA teams of all time. teams that some of my friends own, by the way. I have Gen G beating them because I hate Gen G.
What are the expectations for Sentinels this event? Like, do you think they have to make playoffs?
Going to be a problem. They are, to me, a confidence team,
bro.
So from what I see on film, they're a confidence team. If they make it out of this group, they are going to be a fucking problem. I'm telling you that right now.
I feel like it's a team that knows how to manage itself in a like 2-3 week event. I think the problem that they ran into in stage 2, again, I haven't been watching a huge amount of Americas because of like the time zone and stuff, but it felt to me like from their interviews and stuff with Kaplan, like they were just learning how to function as a team, whether it was just like kind of like I mentioned with like Heretics, like mental health, making sure the players don't burn out. I think that was part of what Sentinels were wrestling with, of like, okay, we won an international event, not confirmed for champs or anything like that. Like, how do we pace ourselves? Like, how do we make sure that like expectations are on us to do well? We've lost a couple of series. How do we walk this back? Do we need to walk this back?
This sounds disrespectful, but it's not meant to be. It's just meant like fluking their way like through the second season, right? Because they did so well previously and stacked so many points that they kind of can. Because we're all going to admit they backdoored their way into champs, right? Right.
Yeah, they had a
Right.
bad stage too, and obviously the
I
playoff
think
they lost.
Them going through Madrid and the experiences learned from Madrid. Remember, most of those guys had never even sniffed a grand finals. Actually, none of them, except for tens, had ever sniffed the grand finals, right? I think that is going to help immensely at champs. So I think that, like, for sure they got lucky that they had done all the things that they did. Like, imagine them not. First off, if they don't win Madrid and Gen G actually won it, they don't make champs. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So
even like winning the kickoff stage as well. Like, I think that is the system work as intended. Like, if there is a team to go in on points, I'd want it to be somebody like Sentinels.
Right.
I think the format at least was good for that, where it did feel like it was the teams that are good towards the end of the season do have the best opportunity to qualify. Right. But if you were good throughout the year, you weren't, like EDG getting their spot based on points pretty early on makes sense when they're just winning everything. Like, they would deserve to go. And when you don't have LCQ in place, I think that this is a good, like, the format is good this year. The problem is it's all restricted too tight, and also the first stage playing the other group instead of your own. Like, if they make it so you play your own group first next year and then you play the group afterwards in stage 2, the system isn't going to feel as bad as it did, especially for like EMEA, right? Where you have a whole group that are 3-3 on results, and it's based on like head-to-heads and stuff like that. But you've got nobody head-to-head in the same group because it's all based on playing different teams. Like, that's a shit show. But yeah, like I think that Sentinels would have deserved to have made champs based on them winning kickoff,
the whole
and then also winning Madrid.
Yeah, but them doing their job there is going to help here because of all the experience gain, all that stuff. And them being fortunate enough that they can fluke their way in a backdoor situation into champs makes them more dangerous, believe it or not. Because, yeah, their form is shit. They're definitely not playing well. They did not play well enough in the season. There's a lot of problems for sure. But now that you're here, you're kind of playing
almost. Like, the whole year doesn't matter.
You're kind of playing with house money, but you don't have like the land problems. You don't have guys with limited land experience. You don't know what it's like to not play within the, how big the spectacle is. This is what I think Gen G's problem is. For instance, I think Billy, if they're pissing themselves, for instance, the round that you saw, they're going to piss themselves even more on that stage in Korea and against Fnatic. Sentinels are not going to piss themselves because they're playing Gen G, bro. They already beat this team, and it made, you know how much confidence they have now? Yeah, it sucks. They would have much rather have easier games for sure. But that is a very, 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 very scary opponent to play first. A team that already beat you in the final. A team that, for all intents and purposes, has something to prove, but also feels like they have nothing to prove because everyone thinks they're shit now. Everyone's talking shit. It's us against the world mentality that they get to have now, so they get to play more free. They're not going to be as nervous as everyone else because they know what winning a tournament feels like, all that stuff. This is a fucking recipe for disaster for Gen G. That being said, I still think Gen G is going to win, but again, this is like 60-40 Gen G, right? Like, it is going to be a fucking slobber knocker. And I feel terrible for all those teams there because I know what it's like, especially for FPX, right? Placing second. I know what it's like to get fucking Gambit in my group as a second seed and watching the third seed in NA get fucking punching bags.
I wonder if that's
FPX is fucked.
Yeah. I mean, the problem for FPX is, like, part of me could think if the other teams have, like, Gen G's focusing more on Sentinels and Heretics, that they kind of overlook FPX. But I genuinely think that none of the other teams in that group would be stupid enough to disrespect FPX. I think that's also the
for
that's
sure.
the hardest part. I think is that you have all of the EMEA teams, all of which I know like the coaches for, and I know that they really respect the Chinese teams. Like they know not to switch off because you're gonna get embarrassed if you do. Like there's a lot of respect given, and I think even with like Heretics, right? We're playing up FPX. Heretics played up against all of the Chinese teams and dealt with all of the Chinese teams very well. Not because China was way behind. It's just that Heretics and Neil knew that, like, first of all, it's fun to watch those teams. But secondly, that, like, you cannot just let them play the way that they want. And if you notice that there's a pattern in a system, suddenly Kung Kong doesn't look super scary when you realize what he's trying to do consistently and how you can shut that down. Because if you shut that down, that's where Kung Kong either just goes super quiet or he tries to do way too much and he can be the biggest factor to EDG losing. And it's the same with FPX. If Life feels in a position where he's threatened and he has to do more, he will lose the game for FPX single-handedly because he is built to be like, I need to get 30 kills or it's my fault. And so you just put him in a box and he's going to cook himself.
I'll say this. I think FPX is the best Chinese team, actually. Right? EDG beats them all the time. That's a matchup thing. For instance, PRX beat the shit out of us, and I don't know why. I don't know what the fuck is going on. We can't beat PRX, right? It's okay. Call them daddy, right? All right, fool. Cool. But they get their ass beat by Secret. We dog walk Secret 3 times this year. Almost 4. If I didn't have a player throwing. And I'm not going to say any names. Almost 4. How is it we can beat the fucking PRX killers, but PRX can beat us, and then we can't beat... It's just how this goes. Sometimes matchups are matchups. And I'll just say that I think FPX not being the best team in China is simply what you said about Kankan, just sometimes putting foot in ass. Okay, cool. But FPX to me is the best team in China. Problem is, this group, every single team in this group is better at macro and micro and fragging power. What the fuck?
But hear me out, bro. But hear me out.
What the fuck?
But hear me out. The last time FPX and Heretics played each other, it was for a spot for the Shanghai playoff, right? To make it to the playoffs.
Yep. And it was close.
And the only reason why it was close was because of fucking Wu. Like, no cap, no disrespect to Heretics. They all know I love their team. I was fucking rooting for them in Shanghai as well. But like real shit, like Sunset, he dropped 30. Easy. And now we're seeing Heretics finally struggle on Sunset, which before they looked absolutely unbeatable, right? Lotus, they got absolutely rolled by FPX. And then Icebox came down to like Woot getting a fucking 5K with those not. You remember that crazy AC guy with the 9?
Yeah.
Bro,
We talked about this game.
Ass think about it. That's what it came down to, though.
No. I know how close.
Woot's not on Duelist to do that shit anymore, dog.
No. Fair. And I'm not saying this like FPX has no chance. What I'm trying to say is, okay, so they get past Heretics, right? And they meet in the finals.
Yeah.
Then after that, they have a grueling matchup against Sentinels or Heretics again. It's like
facts.
The fuck you're supposed to get. Look, what FPX is about to deal with right now with Heretics, you're supposed to get that one time in a group.
Yeah.
If they slay the dragon, woo, we're chilling.
But
we're good.
But low key again.
There's no easy matchup here.
No, it's not easy. But the last time they played Gen G in Shanghai, it was also super fucking close. Like, obviously, this is copium for sure. It's copium. But like, if you
logically speaking, you're right.
If you go off of the matchups they had previously, like it was fucking down to the wire, bro. Like again, against Gen G, they beat them on Lotus 16-14. They got rolled by Gen G on Sunset, but Ascent 13-11, bro. It came down to like the wire again.
Yes, but what does FPX do? They basically like, outstrat. They counter. Yeah. Well, they can't really.
I think it's more of
they
game
can't
planning.
really counter strat.
More game planning. It's
at
like
this point, right?
They're
going to game plan.
Into is good.
But it's not that it's not like FPX has like several different rhythms. I'll give you an example. Small example, but like compare Heretics or Talon to FPX. FPX isn't a threat to go, we're going to play this map today with this comp, and tomorrow we're going to go this comp.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
That's true.
They might play Sunset 3 times in a row. And this is the fundamental issue is they aren't a team that will have like X amount. They have a finite number of tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
The longer the more maps they play, the longer these map vetoes
I agree.
go in one direction, where like a singular map or two maps consistently get played, it diminishes that team's ability, because that team, in my opinion, is not great at making adjustments. Now, I also say this
It's a shelf life.
acknowledging that I think Talon also has this problem. So it's not me just talking shit about them. I'm also saying we have a similar issue where I think our adjustments over the course of shit isn't as good, and I think they suffer from the same problem. Trust me, we would struggle in this group too, for the exact reason I mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's the group of death. It's the
That's
group of
why
fucking
I
death.
feel that they're fucked. Because I
Fair.
think if they get any one of these other groups, they might be fine.
Yeah.
But they
that's a tough-
just got fucked, bro.
I think FPX also have a problem where they're very good at sort of building on stuff to an extent, but kind of like you said, a lot of the ideas that they have a shelf life. There's just only so much time the
Right.
triple controller can work. It's not
Right.
going to be the new meta. It's not robust enough. And it doesn't matter how many defaults or executes or different ideas that you add in, it has to stop at some point. Everything ends. But I think that the problem that I have with whether it's Berlin or Nathan D is it's almost like you've got a big cut on your arm and they put a bandage over it. It's like it's an idea, but it's not actively working. And the like gash on your arm gets worse. You get like gangrene, and he's just there's just like 1,000 like plasters on your arm, and your arm's basically falling off. Like you gotta get to the root of the issue. You can't just be adding another default, adding another execute on top of it, when the idea and foundations of it in itself are just rotting almost.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I worry about. Like FPX could come out with Sunset, kind of like they did at Shanghai, where they're like, we're going to play Harbor on this map. And they, shock a team like Foot who just don't expect it. But that only happens once. Teams here know how to deal with those kind of curveball squads. And like, I could see like FPX beating Sentinels if they both go to an elimination bracket game for sure. But at the same time, kind of like you said, this is the group where all of the teams, it's not that they are just better than FPX, but it's like they know not to underestimate them, but they also know how FPX put their stuff together. So you can almost just meet them and be like, all right, you're going to come out with a weird comp. We're just going to like nip it in the bud. And that shelf life of the comp, it doesn't matter what you run, just isn't going to last because there's not enough robustness there.
Like by the time you get to that third game, example, Heretics lose. Let's say FPX beat them. And then let's say Heretics play Sentinels, they beat them. FPX is undoubtedly probably going to see them again, right? By the time they see them again, guess what you're running into? A team that can go, okay, we're not going to run this comp the next time we play Sunset, we're going to play this comp. Or we're not going to run it. And then it's like FPX is going to run the same comp. So now that the flip that FPX turned on in the first game now is flipped on its head, because now Heretics is the one that can show you. Now they know what you're running, you don't know what they're doing, right? And that's what I mean by like, it doesn't matter the way this plays out. There's a disadvantage for them waiting in the next corner, and it's simply because FPX is very good at like playing their game, establishing their style. That's cool. But the novelty is going to run out because these teams are also like, you're playing the best teams in the world. These teams are not brain dead, bro. They're not going to fall for the same mistakes the last team fell for.
Like Fnatic can play one map hundreds of times and it's still fine because there's enough about it. FPX are the opposite, really. Like just with the way that their teams put together, they will never play a meta comp in their life. They're just trying to find what's the closest thing for them to run in multiple places. Kind of like Loud were doing with the lack of Sentinel. Like Sadak and Loud felt that they had the read on the meta, right? Like Sentinels are overrated, we don't need them. And it feels like cope when you see a team just try to effectively keep doing that. And look at where it got Loud. Pretty much nowhere outside of like top 4 at Madrid, because there's no legs to it. And FPX, the only reason why they got this far really is because they're in a weaker region with China than in Americas, but also kind of like I said right at the start, they've learned to try to band-aid over some of their mistakes by having Life and Autumn and Lysor and even Berlin, to be fair, just diffing people with aim and mechanics and going for outrageous plays that nobody would ever dream of otherwise.
Yeah. All right, so we're on to Group C now, and Group C is your group, and it's funny because we were talking about on the last podcast how after that game from aspas, we were like, all of a sudden we don't want to play him anymore. Like you don't want to play against him anymore. So now we're here and you have to play against him. So I just want to hear your thoughts about it. And I'm not even gonna do a prediction for this game because I don't think it's right. So
No, 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 no.
I'm not going to. I'm not going to. I'm not going to.
Stand on business, bro.
You'll find out.
What's wrong with you?
Now you'll find out in Korea, bro. You'll find out in Korea.
That's true. That's the worst way.
But yeah.
Okay, so what
how
I
do you
think
feel
about
about the
playing him?
matchup now? Yeah, just
Fuck.
and obviously don't leak shit. You know.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
don't
yeah. I
wanna
know,
leak,
no,
but
I know.
just after our last podcast and going into now, after seeing the form.
I
that he's in,
mean, unlucky, but yeah, man, that's just life, and shit happens, and what are you gonna do? So
I mean, you got to beat everybody,
Okay.
right? You have to. You
for
have
sure,
to beat
for
everybody.
sure, I'd rather get it out of the way early. For
Okay.
sure,
Yeah,
I'd
like
rather
eat
play
the
him
frog,
early now
right?
than later.
Yeah.
So 100%, I would rather get them early.
Yeah.
and
You
out
don't
the
want to
way.
play up against like Vitality and Trace, where it's just I think they're very like much unknowns because the players that each of them have, especially Trace, like Trace are a really good team, but man,
agree.
like I don't know how much you've even like scrimmed them before.
We've
Frost,
seen them a
because I know
lot,
that-
actually.
Yeah, like they're known to
They have
be
the best macro
scrim
in China,
demons. Yeah,
for sure.
Mm.
but
I think FPX
that
is
macro
better.
lets
Not really
them down
the macro,
so
but
badly. Like
Yeah.
it feels that either
Yeah,
teams
it's like
don't
talent
script
all over again.
enough. Yeah, like it's that teams don't script enough. By script I mean like they don't have many Valor plants set up that they just sort of tend to wing it. Like this is where everybody like throws a smoke on shot on ascent and they recon out here. Like they kind of just do it that, or they script it too much that if they have to go and improvise, they just shit the bed constantly. Like common lineups get missed, utility doesn't get called. Some people try to still dedicate to an execute, another place like we can't because we're mollied off. That's when like Trace seem to fall apart really. But I think that this is a team that people are going to watch, and even if they end up losing, even if they end up bottoming out of the group, that I hope people watch this and go, that's nice. Like it feels like that's the direction that you want to see teams move in. I think it's just the thing that's going to let Trace down, and it could let Vitality down, is if they just play the occasion and not the maps in front of them. That if they go, like Trace have been fighting so hard to get into an international event that they've choked every single opportunity that they've had. Now that they're here and they've got a great opportunity, like Vitality is a definite beatable opponent. But man, if you have Safe just pull out some crazy rounds and stuff,
Yeah. And
Trace
he's
are
been
just
on
gonna
point.
completely fall apart.
Dude, he has been so fucking good, and even Runner, dude. I gotta give Runner his props too because, I mean, I'm like, it's been a thing with me and Frost where we're a fan of Duelist players switching over to Sentinel, but like the quick turnaround that he had after playing Duelist like the entire season, pretty much up until like stage 2, it's been pretty fucking impressive to me how he's performed. Like especially in his first engagement specifically, like he has a great first kill, first death on that Sentinel role, and that can go a long way and disrupt Trace as well, like you were talking
Yeah, I am a fan of the group we got, and I feel like at the end of the day we have to play these matches.
about. You actually got a good
I'd-
group, other than like the first round matchup. Like you have a good group.
I'd
Like-
rather
like-
play aspas earlier than later for sure.
Right? It's kind of like what you were saying with the FPX thing. It's like, dude, if they were in any other group or you only had to play one of those 3 teams,
Yeah.
like you're kind of in that spot where it's like, okay,
But
like,
at the end of the day, we got to do what we got to do, and
Mm.
we will be ready. And so far this year, we've been the most prepared team against every opponent that we played, and I have full confidence that we will continue to be. Exception is we're a mid team, so there's not much pressure, I guess, going into these matches. So it is what it is.
dope. All right, let's move on to Group D. I think this is also like a fucking group of death as well. And you know what's crazy? All the teams in this group, like in Group
Nah, it's
D,
fake. It's a fake group of death, bro.
no, but it's definitely the second
Nah, bro.
hardest group, bro. There's no doubt in my
I
mind.
mean, on paper,
yeah, on paper.
but reality though, nah, bro.
So for
D
me,
for
it's-
Dark Horse, I think.
For me, it's the familiarity that these teams have, and also I don't think we're gonna see the EDG bullshit that we saw in Shanghai, where they just like you could clearly tell that they were not in the right mental space
Yeah, but
into that game with the pressure that they had. Like they put that pressure on themselves, to be fair. But now I don't think they're gonna have that home crowd.
they don't make it out of groups, fam.
I still don't think they will, for
Nope.
sure. I believe it's gonna be G2 Foot, in my opinion. But you just never know.
That is some spicy shit. Hell nah. It's gonna be G2 Paper X for sure.
Yeah, actually,
G2?
dude, I think Foot is just weirdos, bro. They're gonna
No,
turn
no.
up. Bro.
Foot are weirdos,
Yeah.
but the king of weirdos is PRX. You can't out weirdo the weirdo.
Yeah.
True.
But almost like at Shanghai, that remind me of like EDG last year.
Foot is
where
mini
teams
PRX.
didn't-
Remember we talked about this like weeks ago? Sorry, Ryan. Remember like weeks ago I said like they're basically like mini PRX. They're just not as good. Now you're gonna see Foot and ass. Unlucky. PRX is gonna be like, sorry, kid, maybe next year.
I think it's just like they've earned the respect, and I think that, like, I definitely do think that international events, whether it's teams just solely focusing on themselves because they just either don't really have the staff or the people to put towards watching their opponents, and like with a new map veto with like balance changes and stuff, that they need to sort of focus on their own stuff more than opponents. But the kind of team that I feel like if you're playing Sentinels, you do 100% of the prep every time. But you cut corners. You go, we don't really need to look at this. Like there are certain compers, whatever. And so those games get overlooked, and that's where players like CNED can really start to shine. And like players like Yetajay, like this Foot team is really good. But the thing is like they've done so well that teams are no longer going to just disrespect them. And if you're in this group, you're going to do your due diligence on every single thing that they do. You're not only looking at the comps that they're running now, but what comps they used to run like earlier in the year, perhaps, right? Just to make sure that you don't get caught out by like the weird Lotus comps. You know that they're able to do that. It's just how you adapt, and kind of like Paper X, they're not going to give a shit about that. G2, their game is so airtight. It doesn't matter what comps you play. Like they're just going to focus on their thing. And EDG, they might just go, fuck it, go kill. And I will say that like Simon's addition to the team is a really good one. It was funny because Simon was playing on two other teams. He was playing on IMA, which was EDG's academy team in China. So we scrimmed them. And he was on a Taiwan, Hong Kong team as well for their tier 2 scene. Because we literally like, we played an official against IMA in China and we beat them. And then the next day we scrimmed up against Simon's other team. We're like, is this the same guy? Did we get him kicked? Like, why is he suddenly on another team?
Bro.
And he was literally moonlighting on two teams at that point. So, like, he's come in and he's been a good support player. Nobody started IGL'ing now, which actually doesn't look too shabby. It's just a weird, like, character arc that he's been on, where he's been one of the wildest players on his team. Now he's in charge of, like, the mid-rounding. But you can sort of tell that everybody's come together. Howdong got benched. He's in the assistant coach position. Muggle, who is the assistant coach, is now the head coach. It's a really unique position, but every map that they play, they look better and better. And I think all I hope is that they show a little bit more about them than they've shown at any international event so far. Because every series that we've seen EDG play in, they've just looked doomed. Like they had lost before the map had even started, right?
Yeah.
And so I just hope that they can have a bit of that, like FPX spunk, I suppose, where they're just able to fight a bit more and turn a few heads.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope we get to see something out of them other than fucking shit we saw in Shanghai. And that's why I think that this group is not as bad as Frost is making as Frost is making it out to seem. I will say though, one thing that you're right about, Frost, about Foot specifically, and this is my point of view of why they might not make it out of this group. There's not enough EMEA teams in the group, bro. I forgot, bro. I forgot Foot are like the EMEA destroyers, apart from like the playoff that they had to qualify for champs. But
Then they get
in
to
general,
NA.
like throughout the whole season, right? Like throughout the whole season, Foot have been dominant. Like in the seasons, in stage 1 and stage 2, they've had the best records against the EMEA teams. But then even in Shanghai, bro, they lost to like FPX. You know, it's like, yeah, I think they struggle against international teams, which is like that's so unique because I can't think of like a lot of other teams that specifically struggle internationally, but like dominate their region. Like it's, I guess maybe you could say Leviathan. I don't know, but like the
Fair.
samples,
You
the
can,
sample size
absolutely.
for that isn't that
You
big,
can absolutely say that.
right?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I mean, I think Foot beat them. I think Foot beat EDG. EDG has to play one of G2 or PaperX. They're cooked, especially if they play G2. I know PaperX has their number. I think they have a better chance to beat a team they've never beaten than they're going to beat G2. I'm telling you this right now, bro. G2, and I think they're going to get to play PRX because I think G2 have, in my opinion, an advantage against PaperX. I think G2.
I mean, dude,
can
like those guys wanted that
out
matchup, but when
gate.
PRX chose G2, they were like, even
insane.
they knew. By the way, even they knew. Like I talked to Josh after the event and everything, and even he was saying like, dude, they're dumb for picking us. He literally told
I
me
called
that
it
shit
on the
up.
show. I literally said
and you said the same shit
before they played.
Yeah,
I was like, I don't know what the fuck they were doing. I even told Alex this afterwards. He's like, yeah, my bad. He's like, I know now. I was like, listen, homie, it's all good. If you would have asked, I would have told you. But no, I was like, even he knew. He was like, yeah, I fucked up. That was not the move. And now they unfortunately get them first. That is some fucked up shit, bro. All because they didn't 3-0 DRX and let Mako come back and steal that map and then got reverse swept. And now they end up with fucking G2.
That's crazy, bro. It's
the sins of the past.
Yeah.
Affect the future,
bro.
So I think G2 is going to win. I think Foot's going to win. Then I think G2 is going to put Foot and ass on Foot. And then I think PaperX is going to beat Foot, and then we're chilling. That's it, bro. This is. I don't think it's going to play out any other way. I can't even conceive another way that I think it can play out because I don't think PaperX is being G2, and then I don't think PaperX is losing a Foot, and it's just like I think they're cooked. So you think this is like a good group because it's like, oh, they're strong teams.
Yeah, like it's the names of the teams, right? It's the names of the teams, but the matchups are the deciding factor.
Yeah.
And you're
but
right
if
about
names
the
mattered,
matchups.
100 Thieves would have beat Crew.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, you're right, bro. It's
sometimes you just got to play this shit out, bro.
That's the beauty in this shit, dude. That's why we love this.
You got to play it out.
And honestly, as well, though, like at the end of the day, as much as like, on paper, teams should be teams, man, there could be a wild card fucking team that just decides, yo, it's the end of the year. Let's go fucking crazy. And it all fucking comes together in this last tournament and they just take it all, bro. That's why I love tournaments so much. That's why I wasn't always the biggest fan of seasons, but I see why having seasons is good. I love tournaments because that motherfucker that everybody doubted, all it takes is that one tournament to change their entire fucking careers, their entire trajectory, their entire life, bro. And sometimes teams find it out at the end of the year, bro. Sometimes it all comes together in that one fucking moment. And that's why competition is so amazing. That's why Valorant is such a sick game to watch. Fuck.
I think there's one thing that I wanted to say about China at this event, like that it's becoming more of a prominent thing that I think is worth better discussing. Like, I think being critical of China, like there's not only a chance that China don't make out of playoffs, I think there's a good chance that China bottoms out in all 4 groups.
Yes.
And I think being critical of the region is fine. But I am noticing more thinly veiled racism coming in at the same time from like of watching China for this whole region. And I know that there's been like there's been Brazil fans or French fans in the past that have been like, if you criticize the region, like that you're being racist kind of thing, like hyperbolic. But there's been examples of that in the past, right? Of just almost that victim mentality in some aspects.
Bro, it happened to me. And I'm just a fucking caster in Shanghai. It happened to me. So like,
yeah, and like, I think it's one of those ones where China deserves to be a part of this scene just as much as anybody else. If anything, more.
Of course.
Because who owns Riot? The majority is Tencent. It's Tencent's baby in that country right now. Like,
right.
Having China in the scene is the reason why we have a scene in the first place, for one. So I don't want to be like, all hail our Chinese.
Thinly veiled racism is people saying China doesn't belong?
They're basically, like, why does China get like 4 spots? I'm not saying that in itself is racist, but what I'm seeing is people having those discussions of like China doesn't deserve the same amount of opportunities as like other regions. And then you see some of the responses come in where like even slurs, like people are coming to my chat and some of them are betters where they're getting mad that the team that they expected to win. First of all, if you're betting on China, you're an idiot anyway, because I couldn't tell you what's about to happen. People come in and I go, you're on your own. But like people coming in and just throwing slurs at the players and stuff, and
that's
like
crazy.
Unmoderated chats for the broadcast and stuff.
you have to walk before you can crawl. Look, Ryan, when I was on 100 Thieves, this was what, 2021? Pacific was dog shit, bro. Like, I talked about Zeta being a dark horse. If you go back to my tweet when I was at like 100 Thieves, because we were scrimming them, and I'm like, man, these guys are good. Man, this last guy is good. Like, I was like, man, they're pretty solid. But in reality, though, they weren't very good. It was like you could see the potential, right?
Yeah.
But like, APAC was fucking dog shit, bro. Like what like what Artist says about talent. Definition of dog shit, bro. Okay, APAC was dog shit. APAC right now, if we do our
Strong.
jobs, all 4 APAC teams are going to make top 8. If we do our jobs, all 4. You know how long it took for that to happen? It took like 3 years. This is the 2nd year of franchising. It's going to take some time for China, but it's not that the talent isn't there. It just is like,
It's not
there's
as
no
popular,
way China is going to be at, but no, but it's not even that. It's China had to catch up. Think about, all right, so think about like a team like G2, right? G2 was in tier 2 ascension last year. If we're going to be honest, I won't say most, but at least 3 tier 2 teams in NA, I think, can beat franchise teams consistently in China
I mean, that's fair.
right now. I would argue
consistently in an A, bro. Last year was stacked. The rosters last year were crazy,
but
bro.
that's my point. My point is NA was so stacked that our tier 2 teams are considered better than some pro teams.
Yeah, literally.
Right? So how do you get that stacked? NA had tournaments after tournament after tournament after tournament. And Ryan, I know this is going to be this is going to be for you because EU has been struggling with this too. How did NA in this game become a stronger region than EU overall? Because I'm pretty sure, Ryan, you can agree with me that NA top to bottom overall is stronger than EU.
Yeah, at the top level, I'd say. Like,
right. That only happens because EU didn't get the same level of tournaments for the lifespan of Valorant that NA got. Now, why am I bringing this up? China's even behind that.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't even they couldn't even play in China. They had to play on in APAC servers, if that, with a VPN, shit ping. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like,
it is only natural that China is going to continue to struggle for some time until a team, maybe EDG at some point when they figure out a better variation of rosters. Because I don't think this roster is it, if we're going to be honest. Right? Maybe at some point they build a super team, which is ultimately how all these things happen. Think about it. How did Brazil go from dog water in Valorant to not dog water? Loud. But what did Loud do? They just said, give me all the players. That's what has to happen. You have to have a super team. Super team has to carry. Super team has to learn. They kind of build up the rest of the region just by naturally being able to be there, play them, blah, 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 blah. Everybody tries to assimilate. Look at PRX. PRX was like the only flag bearer of APAC, and now you got 4 potential teams that can make it. If Talon does its job, you'll have 4 teams in playoffs. I'm not even sure. I don't know this to be certain, but I'm not even sure there's ever been a region that has done that yet. That came from the bottom.
I think EMEA did it last year where they had all their teams qualify into playoffs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but EMEA has been a top. I'm talking like, or
I
guess I shouldn't say regions because VCT.
Regions,
I mean like Brazil, like I mean like the.
Not
NAEU. NAEU are the dominant. Regions. I think we can agree. I know the VCT regions kind of make my terminology fucked up, but I don't really know how to like categorize it. But you know what I'm saying? Like all the sub regions, and that's not fucking like I don't mean it to be like you guys are subhuman or whatever. I'm just saying like all the non-NA and EU, who,
the ones
in
that
my
didn't
opinion,
get as much support as NAEU.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think any one of them has ever had 4 teams, or sorry, all the teams that have been at a tournament qualify for playoffs. So it could even be like 2, right? Or 3. Right? Like I don't even think that's been possible. Yeah.
Japanese teams.
Yeah. I don't even think it's been I don't even think that's happened. And APAC might have all 4. And I think that just speaks to, PRX broke through, carried the region. Everyone else got better. Look at the rise of Gen G. I didn't think Gen G would do this at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, same.
I had RQ as and us as the 3-4. Nope. Topple everyone down. Gen G and RQ's 5th. You know, like, or I guess secret, but like the point I'm making is I don't know why anyone is hating on China in the first place. But if we're gonna make fun of them, okay, cool, that's fine. But we also have to acknowledge the fact that pretty much this is par for the course in any big esport where a region, even a region as large as China, right? Because technically China's not a small region, right? But they're newer.
Yeah, it's a new
They
region.
have to learn the ropes. It is very difficult to just turn the lights on and be great. China has technical EDG that has come close to like doing these things, but I would argue Billy technically last season had China's best results ever at an international by beating NRG twice.
You know, it kind of reminds me of like the path that like Vision Strikers and like honestly DRX took in the beginning. It was like they ran so PRX could like run, or they walked so PRX could run. And then like now all of a sudden everyone's in the fucking marathon for 8
Yeah, it's like a leapfrog system.
Yeah. It really is like that. And I'm telling, so just from my experience against competing against Chinese players that were at the top of the games that I competed in, aka Crossfire, bro. When China gets like really good at Valorant, it's over, bro.
It's gonna be a problem.
It's over for everybody, bro. Because man, the fastest oppers I have ever fucking played again. And that's why when I saw Kong going absolutely crazy, everyone was shocked. Oh my god, how could this guy be this fucking good with the op, everything? Bro, me and Frost know, bro, we played Crossfire, he coached it. I played against these guys. Bro, they are some of the most mechanically gifted fucking players I have ever played against in my entire life. I have never, even to this day, playing against all the NA players, playing against aspas and scrims, I have never gotten shit on the way I got shit on when I was fucking a young cracked player in Crossfire, competing against these players that were veterans in China, bro. It was fucking unbelievable how fast I died, and the gap was insane. It was ridiculous. Like, they were untouchable. They were like gods, bro. I was one of the first NA teams to take down a Chinese team. And honestly, I couldn't fucking believe it. It was like that to me was like winning a world championship because it was unheard of at the time. Because I was the weaker region, bro. I was the sub region. No, dude, there was like barely any tournaments in NA. We had one tournament a fucking year. Frost knows this. We had one tournament a year, and that was you played your NA qualifier to go to fucking international.
And you're playing on a different game, Ryan.
We had, bro.
Because Chinese Crossfire,
it was different.
Western is different.
It was
so
different.
Basically,
so
like you can wall bang. Like the Chinese one allows for like insane wall bang. So imagine Haven, now Abyss, Ascent. Imagine all the spam maps with Odin's. Those walls aren't spammable now.
Yeah.
That's a version of the game. And then imagine the current Odin meta being another version of the game. And the Western had one version, China had another. So when you had to go play the best, you had to play on their version, which was unlike your version. So Crossfire is kind of fucked up like that.
It was
literally like the Shadow Realm is like
it was fucking crazy, bro. But
so it's hard.
The gap was enormous. So I actually know what it's like to be in their shoes and what I had to do to get out of it and break it. But he's right. All it takes is that one team.
Yeah, and China's doing that now.
They are.
Yeah,
China.
Like the improvements that they've made this year as a league have been tremendous. Like seeing even like Tyloo and Tech towards the end, they were awful in stage one. They were just miserable to watch because some of the decision making was atrocious. Now Tyloo with SLK over there, who was one of the underrated minds that was on Fnatic of last year, that helped them tidy up a lot of their play. Not only is it huge for Tyloo to have a mind like that in the game, but also good opportunity for SLK to get some head coach control and perspective. But
I'll tell you this too. Sorry, Ryan, I don't mean to interrupt.
It's all right.
But FPX to me is the one that took them. Look at FPX's jump from last year to this year.
Crazy.
That jump is massive. I think they're the best team, right?
Yeah.
In my opinion. That jump was massive. Think about what they did in Madrid. that's a sign of like they're gonna get there as a region. It's just, are they better than like Fnatic in macro, micro? Like, are they better than Heretics? Are they better than all the? That's the. It's okay to make your jump and the leap to be amazing, but that doesn't mean that the leap you make actually closes a gap between you and like aspas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Concon needs a real team built around him, similar to, I think, Wardell, if you're familiar with Wardell, Ryan. Like, he's that player. He's not aspas, right? I think if he has a better system for him and a better complementary set, maybe it's not even players. Maybe it's just like roles and specific, like, characters, let's say. Like,
Yeah.
Or play
I think
style
they'll be
too,
better.
like
But I actually
embracing
think
the attack
FPX,
operator, something like that.
yeah, to me,
Whatever.
FPX is the example of like the jump China's making. Because FPX went from not on everyone's radar to everybody was like, is this team tactically like probably the best team in Madrid? We
Yeah.
were all looking at each other like,
I'm sat there watching FPX be like, this isn't even FPX when they're playing well. Like, this is them making a lot of like the common mistakes.
Yeah.
And if they like fix that, they look good, which they didn't
Right.
do. So it's like, all you
Yeah.
need to just sort of like rewrite this and not knee jerk and panic. But that's the other side of it. A lot of people say like, oh, should they, sort of do what Zeta did by bringing in like Carlisle, like a Western coach over? And I'm like, no, they need to work this shit out for themselves. You can't have Kaplan or Mini or Anderzz go over to these teams and go, yeah, you shouldn't be doing this. Like, you've kind of got to let them work out that either scripting around too much puts them in a position where they need to have a bit more mobility, or that some stuff needs to be written in stone for them to follow it each and every time. Like we were saying, like, they need somebody to say, you won this round, but you didn't deserve to because you played this poorly. Like,
But I
let's
do
run
feel
that
like
again.
the Western approach would do that. Whereas you don't know what you don't know if you're a coach in that.
True, but I think that it's all well and good to have somebody go over to you and be like, you should start doing this more, stop doing this. I think a lot of players like need to work out for themselves why they should be defaulting, why they should be like, when they should be aggressive on a post plant and take space, despite being a player up. Like, they need to work out those positions for themselves. And kind of like Baby Bay was saying, like, they need to work out what kind of mind games they want to play, what situations that they want to go for, and almost contextualize it for themselves. And I feel like just some players go, if I'm not getting kills, I'm not performing. And they need to work out why that's shit for themselves, which just takes time. It just takes reps. A lot of people say, like, watching China now is like watching EMEA in 2021, 2022.
Right.
And it's just, it wasn't that somebody came up and said, yo, you're doing all of this stuff wrong for EMEA. It was the scene as a collective going, we need to move away from this mentality and this way of thinking with a lot of the stuff that we've spoken about like today. But I guess, yeah, the main point for me is just, I think being critical of China is fine. Believe me, I am very critical of them when I get the chance, but I want them to do well. I think it's just, there are people overstepping the line that they need to be like, being critical of the teams and some of the players even is fine. But when you're reducing the region in a way that's very condescending and dismissive and kind of abusive in some cases, not often, but it's something that I'm starting to see crop up more and more, especially with China underperforming to their expectations, right? And
I won't say
I don't think that's fair.
But there are tier 1 players last summer, Baby Bay, in that scrim group that I told you about that I had before we almost thought about teaming up.
Yeah.
That basically were like, why the fuck does China get like 2 free spots into VCT? Into champs. This was last year in LA. And my argument to those players was like, guys, I don't think you understand what's going on. If China is if Valorant is popular in China, it is a boon for everybody.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Rather than say, why does China get 2 free slots? You guys should be like, dude, I hope these Chinese teams actually do well, because if China gets like,
if it catches on, if
into
it gets
this
more
game,
popularity, it's
Crossfire's
GG,
a $1 billion game.
bro.
Imagine
and it's
how-
free. And it's old. This shit is
that's
so
what I'm saying.
old.
If
So-
that fan base gravitates over to Valorant not only eclipses League of Legends, I'm sure, but Valorant probably eclipses CSGO at the same time. And isn't that a good thing for everybody? So like,
We're all eating.
to Ryan's point,
The
I
international,
remember that being
true
the
international game.
conversation last year. If it's still, I haven't heard that again, but if it's still continuing, I just think people just don't understand the economics of these things. Because I'll give you an example. Making champs this year is more lucrative than last year for orgs and players. Let me explain. China couldn't buy skins last year.
Wow.
This is the first year that China can buy the skin. You understand? So like, I think people like to talk, and I'm not talking about the fans. I don't give a shit about what they think, and even if the racism is coming from them, I'll just tell the players, who gives a fuck, right? Who cares? I'm talking about like the people in the scene that have opinions about these teams aren't good enough. They don't deserve enough slots. We need Liquid to be here instead. 100 Thieves should be here instead. All that stuff. That is who I'm speaking to. They don't understand the long-term prognosis and like what this becomes if we're Honor of Kings in China. I'm not saying we're gonna be, but if we even get close, Valorant far supersedes what we think it is capable of today.
Yeah,
and I think
100%.
that is good for everybody. I hope that happens, and I also hope that China obviously does well here. I know I'm basically being an asshole, basically going, they're not going to fucking come out of any team is going to come out of groups, but I also just think Valorant is Valorant, and you still got to play, and I just don't think they're going to win. And I think FPX could have
bad matchups for all of the teams in their groups. You swap it around, but FPX have a better chance, and you know, EDG in Group C, I think would be a lot more scary than like Trace, for example. But I mean, Trace and Billy having those experiences to play internationally is what it's all about. The other side of it as well is that you look at LPL. I don't know much about League, but I know from people telling me that Chinese teams in League of Legends don't play like Western teams. They play their own style, and it works so well for them that they've won international events.
Right.
Valorant would be the same. We're not going to see a Chinese team come in and play like, I don't know, Evil Geniuses did last year, or Fnatic. They're going to play their way, and it's going to work. Like I said, probably about this time last year, next year's champs is going to be an all Chinese grand final. That was my take. And I'm saying that, still somewhat believing that there's a good chance. And I'm saying to other people to temper their expectations for China, right? That's how much people are like misreading how the game is going for China at the moment. Like there's no proper good tier 2 system. It's a bit of a shit show this year with like the China national thing and all of the open qualifiers. But like it's impressive that China even has a league, considering the game was only approved literally about a year ago. And in that time, they played Evolution, they did their Ascension, they built their venue in 30 days. The fact that they've been able to put anything together this year is a testament to how well they've done. Now, and having an international event there for the first time, like I can see a like Chinese international event every year or every other year for the future for sure. But like I think China's done well to just get the league on board realistically. And champs is going to be hard, but they deserve a seat at the table just as much as other regions. And in 10 years' time, it'll be Chinese players and like viewers being like, why have we got America's and EMEA teams? Why do they get 4 slots? Like we should get them all.
Deadass.
Right.
I think that's it. I think that's case in point right there, bro.
Also, the other thing where people go like China's a shit region and they go they didn't watch anything. Like pick a fucking lane. Like if you didn't watch it, don't talk about it. If you did watch it and you think they're bad, that's fine. But you can't say you didn't watch it and then call them shit at the same time. It makes no sense.
Oh, that's the Valorant special.
Yeah.
Oh, don't even get me started. Oh boy. There's a team in our group that did that too, and I just laughed, but it's okay. Whoa.
It's the same shit.
We gotta bang it out.
The people that say what you just said are the same people that are like, oh, Boaster is such a shit player and FNS is such a shit player, and then you ask them like, did you even watch him, like how he was calling on the map? Oh no, I just looked at the VLR page and looked at the stats. Like, nah, bro, fuck off.
Oh, you just parrot it from us or a tweet or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's so dumb, bro. People are so easy to want to hate and not actually do their research. And that's not even just people that are on Reddit. That's also people in management that work at VCT that do not do their research on Frost. Anyways.
Yeah, I think society's like that in general.
I think we got We
Yeah,
gotta
before we-
wrap this shit up, bro.
Like that Donald Trump shit, right? With the assassination.
definitely need to
there are
wrap it up
people
now.
actually thinking that was a good idea. I'm like, bro, I don't care where you stand on this. That was not cool,
Yeah.
regardless of what we think. But it's like people today, I don't know if it's like social media or just where society is in general, but like, you know,
No matter what you say, somebody's gonna back it. Like,
Yep.
you throw enough shit at a wall, there's enough shit stinking people that are gonna really gravitate to that.
yeah, it's wild, man.
Anyways, moral of the story is we're gonna get Frost, Termy, and Autumn into a room, lock them in there.
ISO.
I'm playing ISO. I'm joking, bro. I'm joking.
I'd
But
love
yeah.
to, like, if they ever add a
Yeah.
1v1 game mode into this, like, you versus Termy would be like A-list game. Do it
I'm
for
down.
charity or some shit. That would be fun.
I'm down, bro. Boxing.
But yeah, but Ryan, is there anything else that you
Valorant.
want to talk about? Any final thoughts on champs
Shit,
and,
CS
and also, you know,
1.6.
plug your stuff, you know?
I don't think so. Like, I might watch party champs at least to support the Chinese teams for as long as they're in there. But yeah, I mean, all I would say is whether it's through an English broadcast for next year, hopefully for China, watch parties for me or other people, like, watch more China. It was a lot of fun. It's Saturday morning cartoons for me watching it, like some of the outrageous stuff that players would think of, but it's getting better. And also all of the players are adorable and lovely. Like,
Oh, 100%.
the whole scene is super like fun. I've like loved casting that region because some of the stuff that they come out with is hilarious. There was somebody that was trying to shit talk us in English, being like, you know, oh, we're gonna eat you guys for dinner, and he ended up saying like we're gonna eat your ass, and everybody was like just question marks about before an official, but it was a player that they somewhat knew, and everybody was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And they did eat our asses. They destroyed us. So yeah, I
To
mean,
Ryan's
like,
point, hold on, Ryan. China was the first region to use deadlock. No one talks about this.
and ISO.
A lot of the deadlock cipher also out of China, right? JDG, I would say 90% of the teams that play Lotus stole JDG's attack plays.
Yeah,
you know why? So. You know how I know?
Too.
We talked about it on this show in the beginning of the year. What were people doing? Using our own attack plays. Talon's own attack C play, they were using that from us. Or, sorry, they were stealing it and using it against us, a la Gen G. Gen G ran our own attack play that we ran against Bleed against us, right? There's a bunch of other teams that did the same thing. DFN tried it, like a whole bunch of other teams. You know where I got that from? We stole it from JDG, who did it to us on a scrim, and I'll leak it here. We actually stole that play in a scrim back in like February around kickoff time. But we made it famous because we did it in the league, like early in the league. People don't realize that a lot of the stuff we're seeing are actually stolen from China. No one just talks about it. Because even a lot of my Lotus, I stole from JDG.
So funny, bro. A lot of the Schmeek shit that we had, I stole from Vision Strikers, bro. And that was when they were a weaker region. So the cool thing about being a weak region is that you're able to actually experiment more and find your own way, like you were talking about, Ryan. And that's where it inspires everybody. And this is where not having an ego comes into play. It actually ties back into that conversation about how like you like to get opinions for us from multiple different avenues, right? Like multiple different players in the scene. And you're open to it. You're not like a dickhead, even though you have all this credibility, even though NA was the strong region, I was still looking at Vision Strikers like, yo, I like the shit that they're doing, especially on Haven with the Breach Raze Jet. And I'm like, dude, this is gonna work directly with me and Corey. You know what I mean? Because it's gonna enable us to go the fuck off. So it's yeah, like as much as people want to down talk weaker regions and say all this shit about, oh, they don't deserve to be in here. At the end of the day, we're still taking their ideas and implementing them into our own game to get even better. So, you know what I mean? It is what it is right there, bro. Right here. Yeah. But hey, anyways, bro, what's your Twitch, bro? YouTube, everything? You wanna
Twitch.tv/RyanCentral is mostly where I'll try and do China Ascension, mostly because I'm bitter because a lot of the teams that are in it, we lost to, like, because I was, I was with Attacking Soul Esports for a couple of months, putting together an English speaking roster with like British Hong Kong players, like stuff like that. We did well, but because tier 2's a bit of a question mark at the moment of what it's going to be like next year, like the Yogg didn't want to invest anymore, at least this year, and sort of focus on building up their player housing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, so we'll be watching China Essential. We'll probably watch a bit of Champs as well. And the focus is going to be on China, whatever way. And I'm also casting Polaris, Northern Europe, tier 2 right now. And Ascension
Okay.
Plains, which is like next week. So Europe's looking good in tier 2. And we're speaking about Navi building a roster. I imagine some of the players that we'll probably see in Plains will be on tier 1 next year. Like, the talent in
Nice.
Europe is exceptional. But times that by 2 and you've got all of the talent in China. 100%.
Nice, man. All right. Well, guys, that's episode 15. If you guys enjoyed it, don't forget to like, don't forget to sub, drop some comments in there. And yeah, Ryan, dude, thank you so much, bro. You were an absolute pleasure to have on this podcast, man. And thanks for taking the time. This was a long one. The longest
was
one
a
we've ever
pleasure.
had, I think.
Yeah. If China do well, I'll be back for the episodes afterwards.
Yeah, we'll have to do a follow-up for sure, bro. If they make it out of
If
groups.
they make
and
it out
stuff.
of groups, for
Yeah,
sure. If any team makes it
definitely.
out of groups.
Hey, I'm sure either way we'll do a follow-up because honestly, like across all the regions, like I definitely am not paying attention as much to China because it's just so much shit to do. Obviously, going
Which is
into
fair 'cause
champs,
it's
I'm
also on the
casting
same
it.
time as Pacific too, which is like,
Yeah,
it sucks, but that's the Simmon League, so I don't think that's changing anytime
Yeah.
soon.
So, but either way, I'm a fan of some of the Chinese teams, and I pay attention to specific ones, specifically FPX. I'm a big fan of them, and honestly, it might be a part of Lysor dabbing me up backstage after Shanghai when he lost. What a nice kid! He was like, "Dude, I was a fan of you in Overwatch." You know, it was
Oh, that's cute.
so sweet, bro. It was so sweet. So yeah, all right, man. Everyone, thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and peace the fuck out.